There he is. Okay, welcome. This is the final meeting of the board for the 21-22 academic year. It's been a long but productive year for us, but I think we're all looking forward to having a break before coming back. But we have some important things that we're going to wind up tonight and address. So welcome to everyone here this evening. Let me get us started with a roll call here. Trustee Griffin.
Present.
Trustee Zuniga.
Present.
Trustee Land.
Present.
Trustee Dwyer.
Present.
And I am here. Superintendent Skelly, for your last time leading us as our leader, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Let me report out, and also we do have our Spanish interpreter for the meeting this evening, Armando Ramirez. For those who would like to attend the meeting in Spanish, that option's available to you. Armando, would you please communicate that for us this evening?
For sure, thank you. Buenas tardes, yo soy Armando Ramírez, voy a ser el intérprete para esta reunión. Si necesita interpretación, por favor, en la parte de abajo de la pantalla va a encontrar el globo, haga clic en ese globo y de ahí haga clic en el idioma, en este caso siendo español, que usted desea la interpretación. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you wish to view closed captions of this meeting, please view the meeting on the San Mateo Union High School District Board Meeting YouTube channel, and you can find this link on our website. You can view the captions in English as we live stream our meeting tonight, and you can view the captions in a variety of other languages if you choose to watch after the meeting has ended. Viewers may request additional accommodations by calling 650-558-2201. We did take a few actions in closed session. Let me report those out for you. We approved a special ed settlement, in fact, several of them. In closed session, the board, upon motion of Trustee Lees Dwyer and seconded by Trustee Griffin, moved to approve the 6 special education settlements with a vote of 5-0. In closed session, the board, upon the motion of Trustee Lees Dwyer and seconded by Trustee Land, moved to approve 2 stipulated expulsions with a vote of 5-0. In closed session, upon motion of Trustee Lees Dwyer and seconded by Trustee Land, moved to postpone the expulsion hearing of 2 cases with a vote of 5-0. Also tonight, staff has requested that we pull J30 from the consent item and item N9 from the Division of Human Resources, and we will bring those back at a future meeting. So this is a public meeting of the San Mateo Union High School District Board of Trustees. If you wish to make a public comment about an agenda item or during the public comment section at the beginning of the agenda, please use the raised hand feature on Zoom to be recognized when invited to do so by the board president for each item on which you wish to comment, and you'll be admitted to speak during your public comment period. The board president will call on you. Please note that comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public comment depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to speak. So we have, do we have any public comments on non-agenda items this evening?
We do not.
We do not, okay. Do we have any board comments this evening? Mr. Griffin.
Okay, welcome everyone. You know, we just celebrated Juneteenth this past weekend, and the Foster City Black residents, of whom I'm a member, actually had a Juneteenth celebration at the rec center in Foster City. And this thing has been going on for as long as I can remember. It's always been sort of a homey kind of neighborhood barbecue. And then this past one, all of a sudden we had invited, my church had moved across the bay, and we invited elected officials. And I'm like, it was a surprise to me because I was hauling ice and setting up tables. But I think it's taken a life, it's taking on a much bigger life. And I will make sure next year when,
We're invited.
that it's a public announcement. Well, I got to check. The invite will be circulated. There were people there that just saw, the rec center saw a group together, and they were actually trying to buy food, which was not for sale. It's a free event. But I'll my apologies because I just, the thing just blossomed. So I had a good time. It actually has a program component of Black history, music, art. A number of people were there, including former Superintendent Sam Johnson and his wife. So, but my apologies.
Trustee Land.
Thank you, President Hanley. Yes, Bob, just make sure we're invited next time. But I do want to say that I'm glad we are honoring Juneteenth, and it is blowing up and it's becoming a big deal. And I think that's a good thing. So thank you. For me, I just have two things. The first thing is, as president of the San Mateo, California School Boards Association, we had our first retreat, and we had some direction given. And I want to invite you, especially those who might be going off the board soon, to some of the events before we go out to the off the year. We are bringing back in person. One of the main components is we are going to have Kent Awards in person again. We're actually going to celebrate the past Kent Awards, and also this year's Kent Awards in one ceremony. So that is going to be happening. I'm going to be sending out an email to all the school boards in the area about that for the Kent Awards. So if you got one, and I think Kevin, you in particular got a phone or made a phone call to ask what's going on. So we are holding off. You'll have to come back in May. So you'll have to be back for that award. So you'll have to be present to win. So the second thing is, it was a very productive retreat, and we did a lot of organization and advocacy formulation for what's happening this year. So I'm really looking forward to that and inviting all of you, just like Bob did. I'm going to invite all of you to the events, and hopefully we'll have a few dinners together before you guys have to go off the board. The second thing is just about Dr. Skelly. I just want to honor that this is your last meeting. It's kind of not sunk in till just now for me. So I just want to say it has truly been an honor to work with you, and you've taught me so many things. And I just want to say, I know, but just the reality is hit that this is it. I'm not going to see you on this Zoom camera anymore for a while, unless you want to invite, come just watch us. Anyway, Kevin, take care. I wish you the best, and I hope we don't lose touch.
You bet.
Trustee Zuniga.
Thank you. I first wanted to acknowledge the land that we are currently on is the traditional territory of the Ramaytush Ohlone people, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. I also wanted to remind everyone that the San Mateo County Pride Center has a virtual drop-in group every Monday for ages 10 through 18 from 4:30 to 6. And also for any students that are looking for something to do, well, to get involved more so, but especially over the summer. The North Peninsula chapter of the ACLU is looking for students and for youth to help us. So there are some students that are already part of it through that are in our district, and so it'd be nice to have more students come and help us out. I also wanted to just acknowledge everyone. It's the end of the year, end of the last meeting, I guess the last meeting of the school year. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of the staff and all of the administration, but most of all, thank you to all of the students for hanging in there. I know that the past, few years have been really difficult, but all your hard work and your perseverance and just your involvement is super motivating and inspiring. So thank you, everyone. And yes, thank you, Dr. Skelly, for just, everything you've done for the district. But it has been a great, pleasure to work with you. So thank you very much. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Trustee Dwyer.
Okay, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see it? March for Our Lives. Oh, how do I do this?
Doesn't come
Okay,
through.
I have a
Go
sign,
really close. You have
and
to go
I
really close.
participated in the March for Our Lives march in Burlingame. I have this weird, oh, well, it was almost there. You can kind of see it. I participated in the March for Our Lives in the Burlingame version. There were quite a few speakers, Kevin Mullen, Josh Becker, the Mayor of Burlingame, Mayor Hillsborough was there, Nancy McGee. There was just a whole lot of people there, Emily Beach. And then we marched on Burlingame Avenue, and it was the most poignant speakers were the three students. One is from Burlingame High, and the other two, I want to say, they did not go to school in our district, but they were excellent. And we listened, we listened, and then we marched on Burlingame Avenue with a very calm, peaceful march, and people clapped as we marched on. But I just think it's so important that we not let this whole gun violence issue just go away or kind of settle in or whatever things like that do. We really need to pay attention to it, and we really need to think about the impact on students, on kids, on teachers, administrators, staff, everyone, and really work to make this country better for all people, and particularly in education. The other side of the sign, which I can't show you, it says "Protect Kids, Not Guns," and it's a really neat sign. And I'm really proud to have it, because I think it's really important that we focus on children's lives, because that's what we're all about, is education. I want to wish a fond farewell to Mr. Belzer. I see he's attending tonight. You did such a fine job at Burlingame High School, and you are going to be very missed. So I commend you, and I hope that you enjoy your time away and kind of refresh, because I really believe that administrators, teachers, staff, everyone's really exhausted at the end of the school year. And a lot of it was coming back, dealing with learning loss, dealing with initially with all kinds of protocols, and as that eased off, and it just made for a very complicated, hard year for everyone. So I hope that everyone can push that refresh button over the summer. I also wish Mr. as he returns to the classroom in Hillsdale, I've heard that there are students trying to get in his classes because they've heard what a great teacher he is. So I'm looking forward to that too. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, so I want to thank everybody who's contributed to making this a successful year. It's been a difficult year in many ways. It's complicated. We've had many ups and downs in dealing with COVID and recovering from learning loss. But I appreciate everybody's efforts in getting us through this this year, and also to Kevin, good luck on your retirement. This has been kind of a long farewell. I think this is the third or fourth goodbye message for you, but certainly wish you well, and look forward to seeing you around here once you have returned from your tour. But have much enjoyed working with you, and look forward to staying in touch. I see hands coming up.
I
Is it-
forgot to
Are
say
these encore
something.
events or?
I just forgot to say something
Yes,
about
Linda?
Skelly.
Yeah, go
Um,
ahead.
Kevin, you're the most caring superintendent I've ever known. And so I just want you to know that that caring, I think, has had a great impact on this district. So I wish you the best too. Hand
Greg,
down.
Sorry, I forgot something too. Everybody was doing some thank yous. First off, I was going to say something. I didn't notice who was here and who wasn't. And Mr. Belzer is here. We're going to miss you. So I wish you all the best. And Jesse, the same. If he's on, if you know, I wish you the best in your teaching. I know you're going to just be kick butt. Anyway, the one thing I did forgot is the one real thing one thing I forgot was, you know, we did that retreat for the California School Boards Association at the district, and it was immensely I just want to thank the receptionist. I want to thank Shar. Shar helped me organize everything and get things settled, and she's just amazing. And I just have to give a shout out to her for all her abilities to get things done like that. And our tech team to help me with the Zoom meeting, because it was a hybrid meeting. It was just, we have an amazing group of people. So I'm glad everybody else thanked them as well, just in general, the whole staff. So thank you.
okay. I think we can move forward. There's no communications to the Board of Trustees this meeting. We don't have any recognitions this time around. We can move to consent.
I move
We-
approval of the consent agenda minus number 30, which has been pulled.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from trustee Dwyer, a second from trustee Land. How do you vote, trustee Griffin,
Aye.
trustee Zuniga?
Yes, and I just wanted to say thank you to Shar for always having these so organized with all of the different invoices and things like that, and just the organization throughout the year. Thank you.
Yes, trustee Land,
Yes.
trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. So the consent agenda is approved 5-0. Let's go forward to regular reports. Report of the superintendent.
Thank you very much. Let's see, we've got a few small hiring staff members. Most of it is, part-time positions to fill various vacancies. We're doing well. I keep worrying that principals will tell me that they're not getting high-quality candidates, but so far the reports are that folks are being able to find talented people. Summer school is in session, as you know. Students are coming part-time. Sometimes they're part-time they're here, part-time they work from home. It seems to be working well for staff and students alike. And the bridge program is using the Peninsula High site. That seems to be working very well as well. Our construction is proceeding as we would hope. There's a lot of work that needs to get done this summer. I'm sure that the staff will be scrambling as we go forward, but so far things are going well. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the new principal of Burlingame High School, Ms. Jen Fong, who's here to join us. Ms. Fong and I have had numerous conversations about Burlingame. I know she's spent 3 or 4 days already working and getting up to speed, talking to the administration over there, staff, community members, and the like. And I think she's going to just do a fantastic job. I've done a lot of interviews for high school principals, and Ms. Fong's interview stands out as one of the most outstanding that I've seen. She's a graduate of Yale University, where she played softball. I can't remember if it's the Bronx or Brooklyn where it's Bronx. Okay. That's where she grew up. She's been she worked in the Middle East, where she started her teaching career, I believe. But many of her years of experience in education have been in the San Francisco Unified School District, where she's been an assistant principal for many years and a director there as well. I think she's going to be a wonderful addition to our principals team. She's going to do a great job at Burlingame High School. And I know they're eager to, she's eager to get started, and the community is eager to embrace her. So Jen, you're here. Well, maybe you could say a few words and tell the board whatever I missed and anything else you want to add.
Yes, thank you very much. It's really nice to see all of you over Zoom. And today I met the incoming superintendent, Mr. Booker. So that was very exciting as well. And I'm really excited to join the Burlingame High School community. Everyone has already been so warm and welcoming, and the reputation of Burlingame High School is amazing. And I have big shoes to fill following Paul, but I'm very excited to take on this role. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So let's see. I think that's it. I do want to say once again, this is like a long goodbye, but I will miss this job. I'll miss you. If I come and watch a board meeting, it'll be under an alias, but I don't plan to do that. But anyway, it's been great to be here, and I know that the work that we've done these 7 years will carry on in really good ways. Thanks to the people who are on this call and who are here in this room, and everybody who's worked so hard to make education the fantastic thing it is here in San Mateo Union High School District.
Thank you. Next is the report of the District Teachers Association.
Peter, before you do that, I want to make just a comment, and I already said goodbye to our dear superintendent, and he's on the personnel actions, and he will be back. San Mateo High School and the district will be 120 years old come September. And I want to know what kind of announcements, what kind of celebrations. I think it's like September 15th. And I was there for the 100th celebration. And I think it's really important that we do something either in the press, in somewhere, to get recognition to the district and to the high school. So sorry, I just had to say that.
Yeah. Ms. Chalkley is duly noting.
Okay. Mr. Childress, you have the
Thank
floor.
you. Thank you. Trustee Griffin, I was waiting with bated breath. I thought you were going to say that you were there for the opening of the 120-year school, but of course you weren't. I know you're much younger than that. And Dr. Skelly, I have to say, I find it surprising that you wouldn't want to come back and attend the board meetings frequently. But I digress. Good evening, President Hanley, members of the board, and district cabinet. I'll be very brief tonight. I'm actually double booked. I'm working in 2 different rooms, so I'm going to have to speak very briefly. The first thing I'd like to say is continue with the accolades for Dr. Skelly. I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but I do want to just recognize and appreciate Dr. Skelly's professionalism, friendship, and consult throughout my time working with him. He is the 6th superintendent that I've worked under in the district, 4th as president. So I've seen a lot. I've worked with a lot of different people, and I can honestly say these last few years would have been challenging with anyone other than Kevin. So I really do appreciate, as Trustee Dwyer said, the caring nature of his work and his thoughtful nature in terms of creativity and problem solving. So thank you, and I wish you well. The second thing I'd say is I'm really pleased and excited about all the capital projects and all the important things that are going on the board agenda tonight. I think it's a reflection of good planning in our district, the kind of planning that it takes to go from good schools to great. and moving forward with not only necessary projects like the transite asbestos abatement, but also new athletic facilities for the school sites, and of course HVAC and all the like. It's really incredible all the work that's been going on. I will say that it's unfortunate I can't get in. I'm kind of a workaholic and I can't get into my school site, but that's okay. But I do want to recognize that I think the progress is amazing, and I think it goes a long way to express that the district is doing a lot with the funding that it has. On the topic of funding, looking at the budget proposal as we move forward, I noticed that Mr. Hawkins has pegged the AV growth at 7.6%. As we all know, it's at 7.97% right now. And that's not a ding at all. I just want to mention that represents over $500,000 in additional money that is essentially guaranteed. So again, going forward, the future is really bright financially and fiscally for our district, and I think we need to tap into some of that creative thinking that I mentioned that Dr. Skelly has to think about how we might use those funds. The other items that I noticed on the presentation for the budget were some things that have changed since the preliminary proposal. And one of the things that hasn't changed is that the state budget has not been approved yet. There are some significant improvements and augmentations in the state budget that will help not only our districts, but schools throughout the state, not the least of which, and I know this is not in the budget currently, but is an $8 billion block grant where the districts have, pretty broad discretion about how they can use those funds to not only solve short-term problems, but also some ongoing funds with some careful manipulation of budget line items. So again, the future looks good. The future looks bright, and I hope that I look forward to collaborating on, how we can implement the programs that are necessary for students with the new funding that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So next we have the report of CSEA 519 representative.
Thank you. Hello and good evening, President Hanley, Dr. Skelly, members of the board, and everyone here tonight. I'm Jim Brock, our chapter president. We made it to the last board meeting of the year. It has definitely been a year of learning for me, and I think together the CSEA and the district have made good progress. Today, CSEA signed a salary implementation agreement with the district. The salary agreement is pursuant to the Me Too language in our bargaining agreement, which provides CSEA with the same bonus and salary increases that the teachers receive. As you are aware, the 2021-2022 school year has been a difficult year for many classified employees. Returning to work during the pandemic was scary for our members, but we stood strong and remained committed to serving our students and our communities. We look forward to our improved salaries in the 2022-2023 school year, especially during a time when gas is at almost $7 a gallon and inflation is running rampant. This will surely help retain existing employees and make jobs more attractive to prospective employees. The CSEA appreciates its relationship with the district and looks forward to another school year of productive relations. Again, thank you, Dr. Skelly, Kirk, and Yancey for your time, even while on vacation. I also want to thank Barb for all your support and wishing you all the best in your retirement. You will be missed. And lastly, to my outgoing principal, Paul Belzer, I just want to say thank you so much for the advice over the years, the support, and I will take our experiences far into the future and the things that you've taught me, and I really appreciate it. And to my new principal, Jen Fong, I'm looking very forward to working with you and making some changes and for the better for the Burlingame community. All right, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your summer, and I will see you all in August.
Thank you. Report of the San Mateo Adult School Teachers Association representative. You're muted.
Yes, I am muted, but not anymore. Yes, well, hello, good evening, Dr. Skelly, members of the board, and all those in attendance tonight. I am Jerry McGovern, and as well as being a union member, I coordinate the Active Adults program and teach classes for that program as well. So I'll give you a little bit of information on how the different programs are going. The clinical medical assistant program, the enrollment, I'm happy to report, is almost full. It's been very successful there. Only 4 spots open, and currently the maximum numbers for the medical assistant program classes is 16, and there's discussion on pushing it up to 18, but of course just need to navigate cautiously because of COVID's unpredictability. Career education is summer enrollment is remains stable, and fall registrations have already started to begin. And so we look forward to finding some more creative ways, diverse ways to market, because that is major for all the programs. ESL, there's been quite a bit of announcements on the ESL program the last few meetings, so I'm just basically going to let you know that the orientation for new students will be in person only, and will begin on August the 8th. There will be 6 morning sessions and 6 evening sessions. It is first come, first serve. You may or may not know that. All dates for the registration are on the website. Should anybody have interest or know of some individual who would benefit from these phenomenal classes. In terms of teaching positions for the ESL program, there are 8 positions posted, and this includes AM and PM. However, there are candidates for some of them, and they're going to be interviewing next week again. All the adult school positions that are open can be found on EdJoy. And speaking of ESL, I just wanted to mention that Pat Brown will be retiring, and her final day will be July 8th. So bring the flowers. You know where to find her. Yeah. Okay, and high school diploma and GED. So despite the challenges, the multiple challenges presented by COVID-19 this school year, through persistence and diligence across the board, a couple dozen graduates in the high school diploma program, and a few people from the GED program as well will down the cap and gown, and they will graduate July the 14th at the adult school, 5 o'clock in the evening. And the Active Adults program, which I generally keep under the radar, is just doing fabulous. So we successfully, and again with the ceaseless efforts of an unwavering dedication of the teachers who actually went out to homes and helped tutor individuals so that they can master online technology, Zoom technology, and participate in classes offered virtually, and stay connected, stay informed, stay educated, stay fit, cognitively, physically, and spiritually, And we have so many new programs now too. We have we've brought back the languages, Italian, conversational Italian, and just started this semester Spanish, and hope next fall to introduce Mandarin as another option for our languages. And that's about it for me. Any questions?
Oh, thank you for your report.
Well, you're more than welcome. I have one more thing to say, and that is I hope that Dr. Skelly continues to write, because I think you're a fantastic writer, and it must be because you're from Cavan. So is my grandfather, by the way. I had to throw that one in too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we move to special reports and appearances. The first one is L1 COVID testing recommendation for the 22-23 school year.
Thank you very much. Today, I'm sort of solo here. I don't have my usual wing person, which is Sarah Devaney. Ms. Devaney is on vacation here. So we are coming, this year is over, and the board at its meeting in May decided that we would begin to follow the recommendations of the CDPH and the local county offices in terms of many things, but one of the most particular was masking. I mentioned that I've attended some of summer school. Most of the kids there are wearing masks. It's not it hasn't been an issue, or I haven't heard any concerns. When I walked around, I can't remember seeing any students without masks. But another issue that we have with this is COVID testing. So if you go to the next slide. So this state is looking at 22-23 school year, and it's made some recommendations regarding testing framework for K-12, K through 12 schools. It's offering additional tests to schools. Schools may offer these tests to families to do at their homes, or to do on-site testing. The state supports school-based testing, but understands that support for school-based testing will decrease as testing takes place at homes, and as we send those home to homes, or families do the testing at their home. And so they're going to send us some more recommendations about how to deal with sports and activities. If you remember back when the pandemic was underway, and we were really encouraging staff or students to become tested, the board passed an expectation that students who were to participate in extracurricular activities would test on a weekly basis if they were not vaccinated. And so that's a policy that we ran as we throughout the school year. And so the state is going to continue to have its policy to require weekly testing of unvaccinated staff members. Although, to be frank, this has been a challenge for sites about, what is fully vaccinated, who's vaccinated, getting staff to do this. And employees use this method through their primary health, but this has been a substantial time commitment on the part of our staff to monitor this, to make sure that folks do it, and that we remind them on a regular basis. Next slide. So if you remember, as I mentioned, the board passed board policy 6145.1. And this policy said that, with the expectation that since FDA approval wasn't there, that we would mandate testing for staff. So we recommended this policy, and the board passed it. And then we expected FDA approval for school-age students for the 22-23 school year. But since this FDA approval did not happen, there is no requirement for next fall that students are tested during that time. So it will be no earlier than the following school year. So when we look at board policy 6145.1, there's a bunch of criteria that we built into that policy that are no longer in place. One is the definition of fully vaccinated has changed. Fully vaccinated individuals are those who are up to date on all COVID boosters as they become eligible. And this process, now that we had initial vaccine, the second, a booster, and now a second booster. We have not, frankly, been able to keep up with who is fully vaccinated from our population. So that presents really large logistical challenges on this. When the student can boost, when they should boost, all those pieces. The guidance for isolation quarantine is no longer based on vaccine status. So that creates other challenges when we look at our extracurricular policy. And so, and then finally, the CDPH is anticipated to release guidance for testing athletes of high contact sports and activities in schools shortly. And staff recommends that as we did when we changed to comport with the CDPH recommendations on masking, that we align the guidance here to whatever the state has, which will come out in the fall. Next slide. So what should we do with this board policy? So given the complications here, given the fact that there's going to be new regulations coming in the fall, given the staffing challenges, we've reduced our staff on the ground to do testing on this issue. Staff recommends that we retire this board policy for board policy 6145.1 going into the fall. Next slide. So that's our recommendation. I know that there's still concerns about COVID. I share those concerns. I don't know what the best process going forward is, but we're finding that the students who are not this is having a chilling effect on students and their participation in extracurricular activities. Students are not in full control of their destiny. They depend on their parents to give them permission to vaccine or test. And we have enough reports from staff and from Ms. Devaney that students are in the office really distraught that they're not able to test, they're not able to participate because of this requirement. And we think it's time to adjust our policies going forward on this. So that's our recommendation for you tonight. I know that it's not popular with all staff, but all the board members based on my conversations. But we think that's the best policy. If we're going to have a board policy, we should be able to follow it, and we should be able to do what's right for students in terms of extracurriculars at a time when we're trying to get students to connected back into school. So that's our recommendation. We're delighted to answer any questions, but we would like some direction on this as we go into the fall.
Mr. Griffin.
Yeah, question, and I think we shouldn't have policies that we can't enforce and are sort of archaic. The question I have is, we're talking about the state getting us guidance for the fall, but don't we have activities going on during the summer that are school-based, school-sponsored, and what are we planning to do in the interim?
So right now we do have extracurricular activities, particularly in the form of like summer weightlifting and all those things. We have not tested those because the kids can drop in, they can be part of that. Yes, they do have to get physicals and cleared, but they're not on a team at that point. So at this point, we're not testing those students.
Okay, are we doing anything to advise them or make sure they're aware that we can offer tests? Or, I mean, and we're at the end of the year. Everybody's recognized we did a great job and people have put up with this whole deal. And I don't want to make it overly complex, except we'll have these activities out there. And I think we have a responsibility to do to set some sort of expectation or guidance to put people on notice. Yeah. So, that whatever we're doing, we need to, have it. We need to have it uniform. And I would hope it needs to be uniform and consistent. So the message is out there and we don't have, people that, are not getting fair, equal treatment. So
Yeah. We have our trainers, as you know, they were a huge part of our efforts last year to do that. And they're working during the summer, providing support. We have, Kirk, you could probably fill me in better than this in terms of trainers that are on site or not on site, but available to help out schools. If there are needs for testing, we do have testing going on. During the summer, we had it over here at the Performing Arts Center just today. So there is those opportunities. And if there is a case, coaches and teams are informed.
So Mr. Land?
So I was going to say, as usual, I'm probably in the middle here somewhere. So, but my concern goes to maybe rather than retiring or rescinding it, suspend the regulations and the board policy to really think about what needs to be revised in the fall. Because again, just like what Bob was talking about, there is going to be new initiatives and new protocols coming in, and that we can adjust what we have to what's going to be done in the future. I respect what Dr. Skelly is saying for the summer. I'm willing to go with that. Let's loosen it up. Let's suspend it. But again, we're going to have to revisit this in the summer for next year. What's going to happen in the fall, and we're going to have to take some guidance.
So this issue came up because Ms. Chalkley, myself, and Ms. Devaney, what's the right term? Is it retire? Is it suspend? Is it, what is it? We decided on retire. We're happy to suspend it until we get the direction from CDPH and then bring it back, in the fall once we have some more guidance about what should be done there. This is the ground always on COVID moves underneath our feet. But I think if you want to suspend it until, you don't meet till August 11th, sports are beginning in the fall. I think, COVID is, the situation changes rapidly. I think if you want to look at this in September, that makes a lot of sense.
The only last point sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Dr. Skelly interrupted my speech. I wasn't done. But he makes a good point. The only thing that does still concern me, and why I said suspend, is they are still the health protocols don't take into account everything, and we still have to be policymakers and really make some decisions that are going to be left open to us. That is my biggest concern. Is there is a bunch of wide open areas of where we need to consider, and that to me is what we need to think about for the future and for the fall. So my recommendation is to suspend the board policy until we get guidance from the health department, and then go with that. That's my best guess at this point.
This seems way premature to me. You don't know what they're going to recommend. And number one, you can certainly, you may not be able to tell the complete cycle of vaccination, but you can tell when someone's unvaccinated. They haven't had any vaccine. You can tell that, and those people are not safe. In my view, they're not safe, and I'm not, I'm not prepared to suspend or retire or repeal this. And there's a law moving through the legislature that allows, right now it's amended to 15-year-olds. It started out at 12-year-olds being able to choose to get vaccinated on their own. It looks like it's going to go to 15-year-olds, but I just don't have sympathy for them. They need to be safe, and people need to choose to get vaccinated. And that's my view. And you can't run around unvaccinated and put other people in danger, let alone yourself in danger. And you got a whole bunch of people pretending that it's safe to be unvaccinated, and that's not reality. And while they're doing that, they're putting everybody else in danger. And so I'm sorry, I'm not going to vote for this.
I have a comment, President Hanley. I agree with you. I think it's way too soon. I think that it's still a huge public health risk. A friend of mine is a teacher at Ravenswood district in East Palo Alto, and she went on a trip with her students that was, after school has gotten out and everything, and she contracted COVID from one of her students, and she was in the hospital. She needed oxygen. She needed transfusions and all kinds of stuff. She's a teacher, and she does have health issues, and she wasn't protected, and then right now I have so many friends that are sick with COVID, and they've been vaccinated and stuff, but because they've been around people that haven't, it's these strains that are coming out that are not, that the vaccines might not be able to protect. But I'm in agreement with President Hanley. I think it's too soon. People are traveling over the summer. There are a lot of different gatherings and things like that. I just don't trust it yet. And I think about the health of our teachers, the health of our students themselves. I do worry about students that are unvaccinated, and I'm glad that there is legislation coming out that will hopefully, get passed to give students that choice if they'd like. But, in the meantime, it's concerning. So, yeah.
Trustee Griffin, did you have more?
Yeah, I don't know that I have any more, but all those feelings of the last meeting are all rapidly dissipated. So, the thing that occurs to me, and they're all valid points. So I'm throwing stones at everybody. What occurs to me, the state gets us guidance in August or whenever. It's going to take us it's going to take us 4 meetings to come up with something that might be acceptable. And we're not going to have a policy or any guidance, because basically for the summer, we just said we're kind of winging it. So I guess my question is, what are we going to do? Because, does everybody think we're going to have a policy in place for the first day of school? Anybody here think that?
Well, we have a policy.
Well,
This is
yeah,
the-
no, I'm
This is the
saying,
policy.
if what I was saying, and I didn't express it right, if we rescind, retire, suspend the policy, does anybody think we'll have something in place? Sorry. Does anybody think we'll have something in place to start the school year other than what we currently have?
So I think you have a choice. I mean, I don't like COVID either, and I wish everybody would get vaccinated. But you have a choice. You can have a policy that will be very, very difficult to execute and to put in place in a way that works for the organization, or you'll do what other school districts do, which is monitor students, and if there are kids that test positive, you deal with those students in terms of having them not participate in school or be out of school for 5 days, and you follow the CDPH guidelines. But you got tryouts for sports. The kids have to, if they're trying out, they're not on an extracurricular, do they test, or do they have to be vaccinated? What does vaccinated mean at this point? The policy is written for a time in COVID that is different than the time we have now.
Linda?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little confused because we're running summer things now. And sports, I mean, before you know it, football camps are going to be going if they aren't already. And then you're going to have other sports, basketball. All these kids want to be in the gym practicing and all these things going on. So what's the protocol going to be when the kids all start coming in for all these sports in July? What's our protocol at this point? Because I think,
I mean, July, I mean, if we did what we did, if we were going to do what we did this year, we would get a list of all the kids that were in an extracurricular. We would find out if they were tested, if they were vaccinated or not. And then the kids that were not, we would say to them, hey, you can't participate until you get vaccinated. And that was a vaccine and a booster. What it is now is,
but you can't have the vaccine. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
If you require them to be vaccinated and they're required to have a vaccine and they have not been vaccinated and they're going to be required to be vaccinated and have a booster, time has to go between those two. So that's not gonna, that won't work.
you'd have to have those students test until they were boosted.
Okay.
But what if they've already, I mean, see, I'm with Linda because it's, or at least what you're saying is, if they're not in process but start getting in process, doesn't that give them at least some form of insulation from COVID? So therefore, at least they're in process, so they may not have to get all the boosters, because you can't get it all done until months later. So, you know, as long as there's the attempt to vaccinate. So there is that confusion.
And then you have the students who have had COVID in the last 60, 90 days who should wait. So
who have to wait to be vaccinated.
And that's a daunting administrative duty for our health department.
We should have been looking at this in April and May, because right now we're pushed against the wall.
Do we have any support from the county? Do we have any support or anyone that we can reach out to with the health department that, you know, could assist us if we need? I know that Sarija, one of the leaders in the health, the San Mateo County Health Department has constant, webinars and conversations about this. It would be interesting to bring that up at the next one.
Yeah, I'll say that in terms of testing, monitoring COVID, reaching out to families, going back, nobody's done a better job than us. So if we go to the county and say, hey, help us on a policy that's more expansive than anything else any district's going to do, when we have the resources and infrastructure to do more than anybody else, we're not going to get the kind of help on a regime like this.
But we're saying that it is taxing our staff, so there has to be something that, I don't know, some sort of support out there.
Yeah.
Do we know what Sequoia is doing?
I don't know exactly, but they never had this policy. So they've hewed the line of the county and the state throughout this whole process. So, for example, on masks, they went to masks strongly recommended as soon as they could. I haven't talked to the other district. I don't know what Jefferson is doing, for example. I think they stayed masked throughout the school year, as did San Bruno. San Bruno's in a different situation, but I know they didn't have the testing regime that we did.
Yeah, great.
Look, I've been very proud of what we've done this year. I know it's been hard, and I've been very happy that we've done it. I think at this point, we have to start realizing what shifts are going to be made and what we're going to have to do in the future. It's not going to be able to be as strict and stringent as it has been. And I think we need to realize that. And I'm glad that Dr. Skelling is bringing up the fact that it is a burden. It is hard. It is difficult, but we've done it. We've done it, and it has worked. And I think we made very good choices. But I think we're at a crossroads right now, and that crossroads is this policy doesn't make sense. It was very clear from what he outlined. Bob brought excellent points up about, hey, how are we going to do it? Now, yes, we can have staff go back and look over and try to have an adapted, changed policy or whatever. And that could be done over the summer if you want, but we can just suspend it until we can figure it out. We are following much more stringent guidelines than the health department is asking of us. And that's where I think we need to, I remember in our last couple meetings or a couple meetings ago that we were trying to be more in alignment because that was something that was big struggle. So we need to become more in alignment, which is what is this policy change we have to do. So in my mind, for right now, suspend this, come up with other policy advice based on what the health department's saying, and what we think is going to be good and what will work. I think staff has to realize that this board as a whole, or at least certain individuals on this board, really want to make sure that we are safe. And that is their top priority. And I get that and I agree with it, but it has to be implemented in a decent way. So there has to be some adjustment. So there has to be some sort of compromise at this point. We can't just say keep the policy as is. That is not realistic. The other point is we don't want to just throw the baby out with the bathwater and just say, oh, let's do what everybody else is doing. That's not what this board is about. And so there has to be some middle ground, or at least some exploration about what we could do instead. That would be my best advice at this point.
So suspend and revise.
I suggest to give staff enough time to do this, that you suspend this through September.
But then school starts. So what's our policy for school starting?
I would
then?
say suspend through August.
Yeah.
You know, that's a little harsher, but that's
Well,
what I would.
we should have been working on this earlier.
I think, and it's not my rodeo after today. So, I think that, that'll be fine. And if the new superintendent comes in and in consultation with Ms. Devaney and the county health department has a better recommendation or some idea what the state is going to do about contact sports, then I think they can come back and ask for, that you continue the suspension. But that makes sense to me.
But it's not just contact sports. I mean, you're talking about the whole range of extracurriculars.
Yeah, which is what you have now, which includes cross country and, girls golf and tennis. It's pretty hard to justify, I think, having those kids test. And, we were testing in, if you remember, and I think it worked, is that, that was really to encourage a higher percentage of our students to get vaccinated. And I think that had that impact.
Can I just say one more thing? Kevin, you brought up something very important during your presentation, that testing is also going to more home testing. A lot of districts are sending tests home, allowing for those tests, and they are credible, immediate, right there tests. Now, it's not perfect, obviously, because, antigen is different than PCR, but it gives indications and it's a good warning. And if we have those available to pass out, then that's what we should be doing. So if anything, that is kind of suspended, provide tests, home tests, so that if someone's feeling ill, they can get tested. That's what we've been doing in other districts. And that's what's happening in my district. And we had a huge surge, but luckily, because we sent home tests, people started being aware and didn't come in. And that's not even with sports, that's just in person. So I really feel like, and again, I'm just sorry, the lone voice, but I really feel like we should suspend this until further notice. I would direct, as Linda said, and revise, whatever that takes, however long that takes. So I'm not going to put a date on it. I know that sounds horrible for some of you, but that's what it should be. It should be, we need to suspend it, revise it, and come up with something that works for the future, because we should have something, either with home tests or however we want to call it. Because we want to be in line with what the health department is saying. That's what our 2 meetings ago we said we were going to do.
Peter, I got a question, or maybe a statement question. So we don't meet again till August, right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, school starts around what, the middle of August?
The school starts the 11th and first board meeting is the 12th.
So, you know, nothing is going to happen after tonight till the first part of school. And which I think is, you know, Linda's wisdom about, you know, we probably should have started on this last semester or something. We're really, I think we got to suspend it, rework it. I think we were collectively trying to align ourselves with CDPH, which is to say, if they make something really, if they make a real bonehead move, we probably would not, hopefully, follow them blindly. But for the most part, we're trying to align. But, you know, this is our last opportunity till school starts. And I don't know that we have a plan in place to, and I think we probably need to at least set a deadline to bring something back. You know, I mean, because otherwise, we'll be wondering where it is. And when school starts, everybody's going to be really busy dealing with a whole bunch of issues. And some of them may be the fact that everybody came back without a policy and we got high rates of infection or something. So I'm just, that's an observation. I hope we don't, but we need to have somebody work on a plan that is going to get us through the start of the school year, have a date certain when they bring back a pass at this, so we can start working on it again.
So I'd like to amend staff's recommendation to suggest that you do it at your, that you take this issue up at your first meeting in September.
August.
No,
I was looking for a calendar on our website and I don't see our 22-23 calendar posted. I was trying to look at the dates.
a school year calendar?
Right. No, our meeting calendar.
Oh, because we're moving to the new agenda online.
I wanted
I'll
to
send the
see,
dates
you
again.
know, it was kind of,
Yeah.
see what our dates are.
Linda, you're right. We're moving to a new agenda online program to do board meetings. So that's the delay. So your first meeting is the 11th. And then you meet on the 25th of August. Then you meet on the 25th. Then you meet on the 11th of September. And then the 25th, no, it's a little bit off from that.
So 15th of
to
September
29th.
and the 29th of September.
Correct.
What's the first day of school?
11th.
August 11th.
The same day as our meeting.
No,
Yes.
yes. I thought the school started the 10th.
10th
That's
is
not very
Wednesday,
helpful.
11th is Thursday.
Yeah, we usually start on a Wednesday.
So you're at
Okay.
the,
It is on the 10th, Dr. Skelly, is the first day for students.
So we do not have a meeting between now and school starting. So when school starts, what's our policy?
Well,
What are we
right
doing
now,
about COVID when school starts?
Well, if you're gonna vote to align with CDHP or whatever that is, then that's your policy.
I know.
So that's what you're voting for.
Well, I'd like to know what the policy, I mean, I hate to say that. I mean, I'd like to understand what their policy is.
Well, they don't have it yet. That's my whole point, is they don't have it yet.
you know, to me, what our practice is to consistently encourage students to get vaccinated. Full stop. That's one. And then to provide testing at every juncture we can, and to we've had a policy of keeping kids out longer than the state has in some respects. And so if you're going to align to the CDPH guidance, it is not to test unvaccinated kids. There's no And I would be surprised if the state adopts any policy that differentiates between the vaccinated and unvaccinated in terms of testing, or expectations around how long you're out of school and those kinds of things.
What about masking?
Once again, I think the state
Recommended.
is strongly recommended unless health conditions move to a point in which, you know, they say the kids should wear masks. And I don't know what I can't foresee what'll happen in the fall. I can just tell you that right now in summer school, the vast majority of kids are wearing masks when they're, you know, in crowded places. So once again, just I think my recommendation, and I'm not here, is that you suspend this policy till September 15th and ask staff to come back with a recommendation at that point.
Is my audio not working? Am I not hearing
I think
anything?
we're all just being quiet. I'm willing to make a motion, and if it dies, it dies. I'm willing to make a motion that says that we're going to suspend the board policy as such until further notice. I recommend that that staff bring something back in at least an initial draft in August.
I'll second his motion.
August 11th.
August 11th meeting. Yeah.
But your motion is that you're going to suspend till further notice.
No. I put in until we have a recommendation in August for the August 11th meeting.
Okay. The motion is that you're going to suspend the policy with a request that
Direction.
a revision be brought back at the August 11th meeting. So that'll be a thrilling return.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
So there's a motion and a second. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Zuniga.
No.
Okay. Trustee Dwyer.
Yes.
Trustee Land.
Yes.
I vote no. So the motion passes 3-2.
Okay, on we go.
Okay. Adoption of the 22 to 24 local control accountability plan.
I'm going to turn this item over to Ms. Kemke and Mr. Simmons, who's here, who is, you won't notice this, but he is making great progress recovering from knee surgery. So
I think we've presented this a couple times and put a review of the metrics. This is the last review alongside the budget for approval.
we don't have a presentation. So
Yay.
It's just
I make a
the
motion to approve. I make a motion to approve the formal LCAP.
I'll second the motion. Oh.
Okay, but whoever, it's okay.
Okay, so there's a motion from Trustee Land and a second from Trustee Griffin. Was that right? Okay. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga.
Yes, and I just want to say how much work goes into this. I read every single word of that report and I just give it to you all. Like, great work. Thank you.
Yes, it's a massive amount of work. Where was I? Trustee Land.
You've been forgetting about me, Peter. I vote yes, and I just want to say to Julia and to everybody, and Brian, to everybody who's worked on it, the buckets, the categories that you picked are just right on target with what we need for our LCAP. So great job.
Trustee Dwyer.
I just want to tell Brian, where is he? There he is. Your work is really appreciated, Brian. You may not know that. And if you ever want to do something fun like commercials, you can give the fastest spiel of anyone. So you could do that. Not that you need to do anything else on the side, but I vote yes. Thank you.
Yes, I vote yes too. So we'll look forward to your Irish jig or something in the near future. Okay. L3, adoption of the 22-23 district budget.
This is Mr. Hawkins, and this will be anticlimactic as well.
It will be, but it'll be anticlimactic with a very short presentation. I apologize, Kevin, on your last meeting. So, all right, next slide. So we're going to briefly go over some few minor changes since the tentative budget you saw at the first meeting in June. We'll just go over the final estimated actuals and proposed budget, which we're going to ask you to adopt tonight. We're looking over the multi-year projection assumptions, which haven't changed since our public hearing budget, look at the multi-year projection, and then go over next steps. Next slide. From the first meeting in June, we had some small revenue adjustments based on some updated numbers from the county. And in the adopted budget, we just were cleaning up a couple of expense budgets and decrease some expenditures. Next slide. Overall, very similar to the budget you saw at the tentative budget on June 9th, showing a small spend down of the fund balance, primarily due to the one-time payment to our employees as part of the 22-23 settlements. And then in the adopted budget, pretty much a balanced budget, and the balanced budget on the unrestricted side for 22-23. Next slide. Same assumptions as you noted before, as Craig noted in his DTA speech. Our current number from the county is 7.97%. So a tick above what it was on that 7.6 that we'll adopt the budget at. Next slide. Overall, from a multi-year projection, we, like I said, we show basically a balanced budget in 22-23, and with a 3.5% projected increase in assessed valuation, we show a little bit of a excess of revenues over expenses in the out years. Next slide. The next steps, these are the same next steps that we talked about. The big one that we're waiting on is the adopted state budget. You may have seen, oh wait, they adopted the new state budget. We can take down the presentation now. No, finish up. You may have heard some news articles about how we adopted the state budget, and it took about 10 years, but the legislature has finally found their way around the pass a budget by June 15th or you don't get paid. So they pass, just the skeleton of a budget, and then they keep negotiating. So we expect some of the final details this week, but we just received something from Capital Advisors noting that they expect some of the negotiations to go into the fall. So we will see. I'll keep the board updated as we move on. I'll be asking tonight for adoption of the 22-23 budget. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Valerie and Vanessa. They do all the heavy lifting on this budget. It's hundreds of hours. And also, I don't usually say this, but a big thank you to all of the departments and the sites who work with us, especially HR. We're always arm wrestling about when do we need stuff, and but Kirk and his team get it done. So I want to say thank you to them. So Valerie, Vanessa, thank you. All the departments, thank you. With that, I'll ask for approval, and for Kevin, I'll steal a line and say, on we go.
That can be your new line.
Okay.
I move approval.
Trustee Griffin.
Yeah, okay. I will second Trustee Lee's Dwyer motion. There's a couple things here, and Mr. Hawkins did provide a cartoon, but apparently he only provided it to me, and it was a good one. So for all you people, you'll just never know, or maybe I'll put it in distribution. But thank you, Yancy. You know, the thing I just want to understand and nail down, because the AV continues to grow right up till, how does that work, till June 30, and that sets how we calculate our revenues, or mechanically, and I've never gone this deep into the bowels of the ship. How does that work?
So we look at the AV tracker, and Kevin and I have a constant bet of who can be the most updated on the AV tracker. That's just the updating in their system. Early in June, it stops updating, and they stop really giving that. So the first official information we get is when they set the roll in August. And so that's when we get the first official roll. The tax date's as of December 31st. So they're really still just processing sales through December 31st and changes in ownership and things like that. So really it's just a processing time. But August is when we get the official roll that is signed off by the county. But that also changes during the year as refunds are going out and things like that. And just as a not exciting but informational point, all refunds that go towards the year get spread across the entire county as a whole, and then they're updated in their individual tax rate districts for the next year. So it's always changing a little bit as we go along. But August is that first time where we get a, kind of the official line from as the tax bills, the tax rolls are rolled over.
So we will see some money hopefully drop to the bottom line between where you and Craig are tracking it and where it actually ends up, which I guess all property owners start receiving bills in September, October.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but I do expect it to be a little bit above that the 7.6 with the tracker being at, just about a little less than 0.4 above that right now. So I would expect that, but we wait until August.
We all should write our state senators, our assembly people, and just raise all kind of cane about the fact that somebody developed a workaround on the state budget that leaves all the local jurisdictions hanging. That I just think that is just pitiful in terms of their responsibilities. We're trying to do our job, and and a component of that is what they're going to give us. And I just think it's shameful. So that's my comment.
I agree with Bob.
Okay.
And Yancy.
And Yancy.
Any other comments?
Sorry.
So we have a motion from trustee Dwyer and a second from trustee
It's seconded by Bob, you're right.
Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga?
Yes, and thank you, Yancy, and your team for everything you do. Appreciate it.
Trustee Land?
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer?
Yes.
And I vote yes also.
Yes.
So the budget's approved 5-0. Thank you for all your work on that. So long process. So L4 is an update on the local control accountability plan, local indicators.
Good evening again. This is just a quick review of what we call the LCAP local indicators. This annual report is required part of the LCAP approval process that asks us to be sure to call out all information that we actually share with the board and public in pieces through the school year. Go to the next slide.
Next slide.
And here's a quick overview of the presentation. You can go to the next slide. And there are 5 areas that Mr. Simmons is going to cover. It's basic services. This is LCFF priority 1, the implementation of standards, LCFF priority 2, parent engagement, LCFF priority 3, school climate, which is priority 6, course access is priority 7. The California dashboard is the place where progress will be reported and monitored, but we also must be consulted on local indicators. And due to the pandemic, the dashboard actually is not fully representative of our work now, and you saw that in the LCAP presentation. So now go ahead and go to the next slide. We are going to move into the local indicator report, which Mr. Simmons is going to run through in his very efficient way.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Skelly, Cabinet. The first area is basic services, which cover what you might expect, the core elements of a good education: high quality teachers, instructors, instructional materials, and facilities. And as you can see, using a variety of measures that we shared in the fall of 2021, we've met the objectives in this area quite well. Next slide. The next area is related to the extent to which our district is enacting the current California standards in all our core courses, all of our courses rather. After an analysis by our team, based on observations and reviews of teacher courses on Canvas and using the state's district reflection tool, it was determined that we are meeting the expectation in this area. And while we of course look to continuously improve the extent to which all students master the standards in all of our courses, we do believe that the standards are being enacted across all our courses. Next slide, please. The third area is related to reporting on the extent to which our families believe we are effectively engaging and supporting them. And while we have shared the broader findings of the family survey earlier this academic year, in general, we are seeing broad favorability ratings from our families. And while we have acknowledged that we have work to do to better support and meet the needs of our higher need and families of our English learners, and that was certainly identified at the DLAC presentation earlier this spring, we do believe that we have met the objectives in this area. Next slide, please. Pardon me. The fourth area of review for this local indicator report is the area of school climate. And again, as previously indicated, we have shared the broad findings of our 2 Panorama student survey administrations earlier this year. We've summarized a couple of the key areas on which we are focused for this report: teacher and student relationships, as well as how students perceive we are responding to incidents of hate speech in direct response to the concerns raised last year by the grand jury report. As we indicated when we shared this data earlier this year, and actually at last board meeting's update on mental health, we have much work to do to improve the sense of connection that our students are feeling with our teachers. And we also need to continue to ensure that our students are going to class in hate speech free schools. Next slide, please. The final area of review covers the extent to which all of our students have access to a broad and rigorous course of study. Pardon me. As you can see, and we've heard in previous reports, we have some real strengths in terms of student access in the early years of high school, and still have work to do regarding the differentials in outcomes, as you know, as students get closer to graduation. We will, as also indicated in previous presentations, continue to invest in increased school counseling outreach, AVID, the AVID program that is, promotion of our dual enrollment offerings in community college, and to continuously improve these outcomes for our historically underserved students. Next slide, please. So that concludes sort of the summary of our local indicators. Again, it was kind of a review of things we've already talked about during the year. We just officially have to do this formally. We'll be posting these findings to the California dashboard in the fall and continue to be vigilant about addressing the areas I've noted for improvement, and of course, coming to you all with reports on progress and how we're doing in all of our different metrics. And with that, we're happy to address any questions. Thank you. Next slide, please. I suppose you can take the slide deck down too.
I have a question. I know that one of the suggestions from DLAC was for the students to be more involved in, what the LCAP was and, how it was implemented. I guess maybe throughout the year, it would be great for students to understand the LCAP a little bit better and to have even maybe just pieces of it that would be very relevant for them. I don't know, would it be possible to maybe have some little study sessions in between the year for students that would be interested? I know it's probably not the most exciting thing sometimes, but it's important. Their voices are important. And so I don't know, just a suggestion.
I think we have some venues that we could do that. I think it's a good idea. Appreciate it. I mean, we'll try to make it digestible and interesting for the students, because otherwise I don't think they'll show up. But yeah, we can do that.
Provide
Provide
food.
food for sure.
Yeah, we'll give food.
You know, I think one group of students that you might consider would be the student newspaper kids, because I just read a column in this daily journal by one of our students, and what an excellent writer. And she had such deep understanding of the topic. And so I really think that would be a great group, because they're so interested, and that would be a great way to get more information out to students.
I also think the leadership classes, they could spice it up for what would make it interesting, because they always come up with some great ideas for spirit activities. So they might actually be able to figure out a way to make the presentation worthwhile.
After they read it in the newspaper.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Julia.
It's team effort, lots of us involved. So, but thank you all.
There's no vote on this, so that's it.
No, I think it does, it does highlight the areas where we can focus some of this one-time money, though, that is coming our way. I mean, when you go through that presentation and some of the other ones that you've done earlier in the year, I mean, you can see easily where we could focus some of that one-time money to really try to make some improvement in, credit recovery, to really focus on, building skills and that sort of thing. You can see where the needs are pretty clearly.
Yeah.
So it's a very useful exercise.
Also, DLAC recommendations. Those are.
Yeah, the DLAC.
But both good
The
ideas.
DLAC presentation was also very good for that purpose too. Okay, thank you for the presentation. Moving on to construction. M1, the schematic design drawings budget schedule for Burlingame High School gym replacement project.
Go ahead.
All right, I'll start it, and then I'll turn it over to Mark Quattrochi at QKA. We have Todd Lee from Greystone, and I believe Paul Belzer and John Philippopoulos from Burlingame High School here to help us out. All right, I'll turn it over. Mark, go ahead. This is the.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very nice to see the board again. I also wanted to let you know my partner, John Dibsack, who's been instrumental in this, is also here as well. Thank you for the chance to come back to you again, this time to show you our work at Burlingame High School for the gym replacement project. Much like our experience at San Mateo, I'm just eternally grateful for the remarkable input and feedback and kind of alternate schemes we worked with. But a particular shout out to certainly to Paul Belzer and John Philippopoulos and Anthony, and of course, Yancy and Todd and others from the district. But I'm pleased to say that what we're showing you today, I think, really reflects the considered opinion of a lot of voices within the school and the district. So next, please. I thought I'd just describe the location for this gym replacement. That was our sort of first design challenge with the team. And after looking at a variety of alternatives, candidly, the best location is exactly where the gym currently is. And it's, again, credit to the team for recognizing, and I certainly don't underestimate the significance of the sacrifice, but recognizing the 7,500-year life of this building, the best thing to do is put it where the old gym was, which means that during the course of construction, and we can talk a little bit about that, they won't have the gym, but it is the right location for it to be. Next, please.
Yeah.
So as I've done before, I'll sort of talk with you a little bit through the site and the exterior of the building, and then I'll get inside the gym itself. But just to cut to the chase, the sort of two major ways of approaching the building had a lot to do with shaping the building and where we place things. That student access on the top right gave us a very important connection and entry to the school, to the gym, sort of our recognition that, students also need to have an important place of entry to the gym. But as Paul Belzer reminds us how important the connection for the community is. Aside from supporting the bond, they're big users of this for a lot of after-hour events. So that public access at the bottom also really shaped that sense of entry on the lobby. Sort of wrapping ourselves around the south, the bottom, we can see we're retaining the basketball courts. They'll be completely resurfaced. And then moving around on the west side of the new gym, you're seeing this flex space, which might have sort of parkour activities. And then this really interesting sports court opportunity, not unlike what we did at the San Mateo gym, where off in this case, off of the fitness room with big roll-up doors, they'll have access to the outside for workouts, but it can also be used for drills and other classroom uses. And then lastly, the connection on the north, allowing access to the pool. So you can see all four sides of this have a really important role. Next, please. And then just quickly sort of walking us through the site plan. It's oriented the same way. You can see the existing main high school building on the right. So again, the lobbies, the prominent part there, you can see the student entry on the top right-hand corner there. There's a great safe access across to that. There'll be some raised planter rings there and a prominent sense of entry for the students. Likewise, going on the other side of the lobby, you can see that other really important courtyard that's used by the public. It also will have some areas for seating, some important landscaping, and a very prominent entrance into the lobby. And then lastly, on the far left, you can see, as I described, this is the extent of what will be a synthetic turf area that can be used both from the fitness room and for other PE uses. There'll be connections from the track. Certainly our future phases of design will identify exactly where those are, because we know there'll be a lot of traffic between both the tennis courts and the field to the locker rooms. Next, please. These are just some inspirational images, not unlike what we've shown you before. That top right-hand image of those precast planter rings that'll be on the student side. You can see the seat walls and paving, that synthetic turf. And these are the landscape architect recommendations for some of the planting and trees. But as always, we'll be sure to work with staff to ensure the sort of plant material that's picked work best for maintenance department. Next, please. So now let's get into the building. And this, of course, is the rich, interesting, and just a lot of work went into this. Oriented the same way, so the main building's on our right. You can see the lobby there protruding out on the right side. You can see the two sets of doors. The top set of doors, of course, are to that student entrance location there, and the bottom for the public. The lobby is well sized for people to move through. It also provides a concession stand. You'll see that on the interior rendering, but also a set of stairs, because this is an interesting use of space by stacking the second gym that would normally be on the main level above the locker areas. We're using the space much more efficiently. So we're providing more area, but in fact, the footprint is no larger, if not smaller, than the current gym took up. So from that lobby, you can see this large east-west corridor. That's a really important circulation. As always with gyms, it's a little bit of a Rubik's Cube trying to find all the different things that want to be off of that. But you can see the aqua-colored spaces. They're both gendered team room and locker rooms, very adequately sized. The team room allows for a huddle, as well as all the facilities we need for teams. Likewise for the locker room. Then towards the center, off of each of those locker rooms, there are both shower and toilet rooms. And then lastly, as part of each of those gendered locker rooms, each of the coaches has offices, providing the numbers of desks that they need, but also the important sort of shower and changing facilities and toilet rooms that the coaches need. If I go back to that main corridor, there's one other important element there in the middle, sort of sandwiched between the two team rooms. And that's where we place the toilet rooms for the public and the community and even for student use of the gym, but particularly for after-hour events. So instead of putting them off the lobby, all of that congestion that was happening there, we're spreading out the traffic between the lobby and using that corridor, which undoubtedly will have trophy cases and other things to enliven it. I keep moving down that east-west corridor to the left. You can also see it's a light gray below the fitness room. There's a gender-neutral shower and changing area and toilet room for gender non-conforming students who would rather use that than the gendered locker rooms. So those are provided there. Just moving a little bit more to the left, you can see there's custodial and laundry spaces, but the athletic director's office is there with really good access and views of the field and immediate access into the building. And then lastly, before I look at the south side of the building, there is the fitness weight room I mentioned before, and it has a large roll-up door that will take us out to that outdoor area. So now moving to the south side, or the bottom half of that corridor, on the left side, you can see in gray the training room, which is equally accessible to the gym and the fields and has all the facilities that's needed. And then below that are storage and mechanical spaces. And then, of course, the most important is the gym itself. Multiple doors in. We're showing the bleachers in their fully put out position. There's room for 1,500 when we have them all out for a rally or things like that. But during a basketball game, we don't really need that many. So we've come up with a way to more efficiently size the space. So there's seating for about 1,100, just under 1,100 during a basketball game. But the majority of the time, of course, the bleachers are retracted. So when you can see some of those lines, there's 2 cross courts, there's volleyball courts, badminton courts. Again, spending a lot of time with coaches. And during the next phase of design, we'll go through a much more detailed striping plan. So that gives you a pretty good feel for the first floor. You notice the number of stairs there that get us up to the upper level. If we can go to the next slide. The 2 major ways to the upper level really are from the lobby. You can see that L shape on the right-hand side set of stairs. And then also on the left-hand side, there's an outside set of stairs that also gets us upstairs. But starting from the lobby, I'd go up. Notice there's a single occupant toilet room up there. And then I immediately get into, there's a set of doors there so we can close this off. But this is the auxiliary gym. But it is also provided with cross courts and badminton courts and volleyball. And there's even room for some movable bleachers as an auxiliary gym would need. Immediately off of it, there's actually a big roll-up door into the wrestling room. But the wrestling room also has another set of doors from the outside. So the ability to get to the wrestling room is really good. Again, properly sized, and you can see some bleachers in there. There is an emergency exit on the back side there. Just there's details I'm still working out. Paul and I were just talking about that little niche that's there. So we'll work on eliminating that so there's no recess. And then lastly, upstairs on the other side of the wrestling room, there's a storage room and a little bit of a landing. Great place to watch a football game, by the way. It's going to be an awesome view to the field. So this gives you a pretty good feel for the spaces. Before I go on to the next slide, I do want to walk us through some renderings, kind of as I've described to you before. We're sort of looking for the kind of finding the imagery that's right for the place and time. You know, the place and use of this as a gymnasium needs to reflect that, but also recognizing it's part of the fabric of an existing school, which is common in schools where we see buildings built of many different time periods. So we're looking for that imagery that both reflects the surrounding buildings as well as its current use, its current time. So with that, next slide, please. So here we see from the southeast, that's sort of that really important sense of entry that Paul talked about with what the community would face. We sort of lightened up the trees so you could see through them. And I think during subsequent phases of design, we're going to look very carefully. What we want to make sure we do is that there's a strong sense of entry into that lobby. But I think we can all agree. You can see it's glass. It has some horizontal fins providing sun shading, but it provides a strong sense of entry. There's no question this is the entry to the gym. And I'm really sort of looking forward to seeing it in the evening during a basketball or volleyball or some other large assembly. It's going to glow and have that great sense of gravitas and importance that we really want to have in the gym lobby. From that, we can see the terracotta colored siding. This is really reflecting, you know, paying some homage to the tile that you see on the right-hand side of the old building. So it has the same sort of striations in color. And it mostly is on the upper level of the building, but a couple places goes down. And then on that corner, you can see what really is a translucent glass. You can't see through it, so it will have no direct sun, but it provides a huge abundance of daylight. And a number of our gyms have enough daylight without any direct sun that during a PE class, they can be used without any artificial light. So from an energy savings perspective and quality of space. And then letting the bottom sill, you can notice it has a slight angle to it, sort of playing off the slopes of the roofs. And then the rest of the building is plastered of the same color the rest of the school. So all in all, sort of reflecting the importance of use as a large box, as a gym will be, but also making references to the original building, but also being true to its time and its place. Next, please. Then the last exterior rendering is now looking from the field. You can see, of course, the existing school in the background. You can see that same use of material. This could be a precast panel or maybe metal. We're still working with Todd and our vendors on the right material. But I think what's important is that sort of texture and color that material provides as a real nice contrast, begins to break down the mass of what would otherwise be a very large box. Then you can see, of course, we carried this theme through as we looked at breaking down the mass and even beginning to show some of the team spirit on that side of the building and how wonderful that would be on the side facing the soccer and football field. You can see those other set of stairs that takes us upstairs. And on the far left, the bottom is that those kind of roll-up door and windows from the fitness room with the resting room above that. And then the last image, next slide. We will also wanted to make sure we took a good look at what this lobby would look like. Nothing like a gym lobby is a place this lobby would look like. Nothing like a gym lobby is a place for student pride, just showing school spirit. So we're using school colors and imagery, even the word Panthers underneath that soffit before we get into the main gym. You can see that concession stand. There'll undoubtedly be displays. They'll be serving packaged foods, but also T-shirts and hats and so forth. Probably under the stairs, not shown, we'll be beginning to place some trophy cases. And then lastly, of course, the important stairs upstairs. There's conversations around using a more clear glass than this translucent to ensure we can see what's going on. And you can see the kind of materials that we're using here. So it's a lively, important space that I think is worthy of a lot of people coming to visit Burlingame events. Next. So I'm going to turn it over at this point to Todd to talk a little bit about the schedule and budget. Todd, it's all yours.
Thank you, sir. Now for kind of the boring part, but you'll see that this is a larger schedule than what we would typically present. This is a big and somewhat complicated project. We're looking at 2 phases of design and 2 increments of DSA approval and construction. Increment 1, the design period will go from now through December. We'll get it into DSA and get out of DSA in approximately mid-April on increment 1. And that's essentially going to be the abatement, the demolition of the existing building, and the site work, the building pad and the site utilities. And the objective there is so we can start right as summer break starts and get what's going to be fairly disruptive demolition work done over the summer break. Next slide, please. So demolition will run between, May 26th, we've got 2 or 3 weeks of asbestos abatement work in the building, and then we're into about 3 to 4 weeks of demolition. We got to backfill the footings. We'll get crews in, get the earthwork done. And at the start of school, in the end of increment 1, all of the heavy earthwork will be complete and we'll be moving into footings. And that's kind of the beginning of increment 2. We're in construction for a total of 18 months. We wrap up in December of 2024, and occupancy will be right after winter break in the January of 2025. Next slide, please. So every time I work on a gymnasium project, the program gets more complicated, the building gets bigger, it houses more activities, more people, it's open more hours. This is no different. When I built the original budget for the bond, it was about a 30,000 foot building and was budgeted just around $30 million. As you can see, we're considerably over that. We're about 37,500 square feet. Things like training rooms, larger fitness centers, again, accommodating more sports and more activities for more hours. The buildings just get larger and more complicated. On the overall, we've got an anticipated bid amount of about $28.5 million. You'll notice at the bottom, I'm carrying about $2.1 million in additional escalation money, which is not something we've typically done in the past. But right now, the market is so full of uncertainty that we're not sure where prices are going to go. So we've kind of hedged our bets a little bit. The rest is the typical activities that you see. Mr. Hanley, the miscellaneous expenses are for things that don't fit typically in other categories. I know you're always concerned with that one. So with that, we'll take questions.
Before we take questions, I would love for John to be able to make some comments about the process and how the site's involvement in there. Oh, sorry, Paul. Thank you. I could not find you. I'd love to hear Paul's thoughts.
Thank you, Yancey. Good evening, President Hanley, members of the board, Superintendent Skelly, and members of cabinet and our larger community tuned in tonight. Well, Mark and Todd have covered much of what we really wanted to share, and so I really appreciate the overview. I'd like to, this is my last board meeting in a while, so before I kind of talk about some Measure L highlights, I'd quickly like to wish Dr. Skelly a long and joyful retirement and really share my gratitude for his exceptional and supportive leadership. I'd also similarly like to recognize and congratulate Dr. Jen Fong, the new BHS principal, who will be taking over much of the planning of this project, along with Assistant Principal Dominic Begue, who has been highly involved in the design process up to now. Dr. Fong and I have met a couple of times already, and I am happy to support her leadership moving forward and think she'll be a great fit for Burlingame. I am, to kind of piggyback on Mark's excitement, I'm really excited about the design of the BHS gym project. It's been an honor to have been involved in the modernization of our schools for the past 20 years. And it is a real privilege, again, to support the district's commitment to creating safe and state-of-the-art educational facilities for our students. As Mark and Yancey touched upon, we're lucky to serve a community that demonstrates such incredible support for our schools through the approval of Measure L and previous bonds. And it's exciting to work on these projects. It's been a challenge. We've talked about a music room. As you know, real estate in Burlingame is hard to come by and in high demand. And so we really worked, I think, really collectively with QKA. Our school, our community takes pride in a well-rounded educational experience for our students, and our physical education, athletic and activities programs play a significant part in shaping that engaging, healthy, and physically active experience for our students. So in looking at the music room and looking at the kind of the tear down and rebuild, we just really felt like this was a final design that we were really excited about, and hopefully a beautiful and highly functional physical space and gym facility that will inspire and support the growth of our students and the well-being of our community. So it's really been exciting. The project really came out. I hope you really enjoy it. We think it's pretty special. And I do want to recognize QKA, Mark and Todd and Yancey for all their efforts to kind of listen to our staff feedback and kind of working in the details, looking both long-term and short-term for the benefit of the school and our school community. We think it's a special design. And I just wanted to say on a personal note, say thanks again for all the support and the kind words from me personally. And it's really exciting to kind of bring this gym project forward as kind of my last official work as principal of Burlingame High School. I would like to recognize John Philippopoulos and Anthony Demich, who've been instrumentally involved in kind of making sure that we look at the daily high volume, regular classroom and athletic team use, as well as looking out for the larger school-wide events that we really like to showcase our students and our design for the community. So we really appreciate the consideration. I'd like to bring John Philippopoulos forward too, who really had some very specific user comments to that. So thank you very much for your support, and we really hope you like the design.
Thank you, Paul, and good evening, everyone and board members. It's great being here this evening. I would be remiss if I didn't just quickly thank and recognize Dr. Skelly and Mr. Belzer for just all of their help and support. They've been absolute champions for the district and great supporters of athletics, and it is a tremendous loss. In that same breath, I wanted to welcome Mrs. Fong to the district and specifically to Burlingame High School. And while we haven't met yet just yet, I do look forward to doing so shortly and working with her not only this next school year, but obviously for many years beyond. I also wanted to thank Todd, QKA, Yancey, again, Paul, and really the district for including me and all of us in the project. I wanted to recognize our site staff that was involved as well. You know, again, Anthony Demich, Mr. Begue, Paul again, for their work and contributions here. And also some staff members that were kind of behind the scenes, people like Matt Smith, Ernesto Nunez, Jeff Dowd, that we were kind of bringing ideas and bringing kind of feedback from as well. There's clearly a great deal of excitement and anticipation around the project, not only with myself, but shared within our entire athletic department and greater school community. Our kind of vision of this and kind of our approach and really our approach here as a school has been, this is a one-time opportunity. We wanted to make sure we got this right. It is a building that is going to be in existence for the next 100 years. And really, I know myself and Paul and everybody involved, we tried to have an eye not only and look at things not only through the lens of today, but also through tomorrow. You know, we want to make sure that the future needs of Panthers are being met. And as Paul had mentioned, our school is very athletically oriented. We offer 6 freshman teams. We fill every roster and team of every district offered sport. So again, our community takes a lot of pride in the school and the athletic department in general, and we wanted to bring something forth that they could rally around and be proud of. I think kind of some of the things that we were looking at, we wanted to make sure again that the needs of the staff and the community were being met as a whole. We wanted to ensure that we were not getting anything less in regards to square footage and space. We wanted to make sure that there were things that maybe were that the old facility didn't have, that were more current things, that we wanted to make sure that those things were being implemented in the new facility as well. And as was mentioned, it was not easy and there was a lot of back and forth, but I'm very grateful to Mark and Todd and really QKA and Yancey and everybody for their contributions and the kind of negotiations and the back and forth and having an open ear and their perspective was also very critical in all of this as well. So I mean the facility looks beautiful, and it's something again that we are very excited about and something that I'm confident that the community can really flourish in for many years to come. I mean, the people that are involved now, we're short timers at this point, but we wanted to make sure that we were kind of looking over the long haul as well. And I definitely think we accomplished that goal.
Thank you. Trustee Dwyer, you had some questions?
Okay, I do. I have a little list. The second floor, I only saw one toilet. Did I miss the others?
No, there's only one. It was really just a single occupant toilet room if there was a student that needed to use the restroom in the middle of a PE class. But the vast majority, of course, are downstairs. But the thinking was just that a student in a class, they at least have a restroom to go to without going all the way down to the locker rooms.
Okay, I don't think that's sufficient actually, because I'm on the campus quite a bit. John Philippopoulos knows that, so does Paul. And a lot of times on weekends we have little kid teams using the small gym currently, and I would assume as time goes on, we're going to also have little kid basketball teams using the upstairs gym, and we will have volleyball practicing in the upstairs gym. And there's going to be a lot, I would anticipate a lot of use because Burlingame is used to having a second gym. And you'll see basketball in there. You'll see all kinds of things going on in that gym during the week and weekends, classes and sports. So I really think one restroom, if you're going to have 30 little kids up there using that gym on a weekend, one restroom is not going to work, and I don't think it's going to work for girls volleyball, I really think that that should be looked at, because, you know, as you said, this is going to be a many, many year facility. And I really think we need to put in enough restrooms for the future. And maybe that's only 2, but I really think it's going to be, it could become complicated very quickly if we only have one restroom. The other question I had was on the pool. Okay, will the pool be closed during construction?
No, we can manage construction without closing the pool.
Okay, because that's a very big issue, because BAC uses it, you probably know this, and they've got a lot of programs and a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
So if we have to move them, that means going to other schools that impacts a lot of people. So I think we need to be very sensitive to that contract that we have with the city of Burlingame to make sure that we keep that relationship intact. Where will the classes go during the demolition construction, the classes and the teams? How is that going to work?
So we've been looking at locations, and we're still working with staff on some temporary locker facilities. And I think I'll turn this over to Paul and Todd to speak about the other classes, but we are looking at a place for temporary locker facilities to replace the lost locker rooms.
I didn't jump in, and then Todd, you can correct me if I make any mistakes. But Linda, we did have that conversation around, do we build in stages and keep some facilities open, or do we go for a complete tear down and rebuild? And after discussing that in quite a bit of depth, because it was clearly that was really a challenge either way, almost doubling the time for the project. By doing it in phases, but having those facilities available too, versus doing it. We decided that the advantages of putting that extra, I think we estimated around $4 to $5 million back into the gym project by doing a complete tear down, shortening the length to 18 months from 2.5 to potentially even 3 years. We decided that was the best way to move. We'll work with district support, our sister schools, to house our teams for that 18 months, but we felt like that was the best way to maximize the resources for the project.
Okay, I'm going to go back to restrooms again really quickly. In looking at the outside design, the way it's set up right now, there's one restroom facility outside, and it's way at the far end of the track. So we're going to have more use close to the gym outside, but with this design, which I think is lovely. And I think when you redo those basketball courts, you're going to see more use there too. There is room along the outside of that building to add restrooms, a couple restrooms at least. And I think that should be looked at because I saw the space, in the design. I thought, there's a spot for a restroom. And I think we should look at adding outdoor restrooms. I've seen people pee in places that really would not be considered appropriate on the track currently. So, that would be good. But going back to the upstairs, their families come there and they come with their kids, and they have little kids with them too. One restroom, I do not believe that one restroom is going to be adequate at all. And it should be a minimum of 2. And they should be, of course, handicap accessible. But you may get by with 2, but I really think you should rethink the bathroom situation upstairs because of the rental use and because of student use. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Greg.
Just quick. Is the facility ADA appropriate? Do we need to have an elevator for the second floor?
You do, and I'm sorry, I neglected to point that out. There is an elevator to the second level. It's opposite the single occupant toilet room.
Okay.
Thanks for pointing that out.
I kind of concur with Linda a little bit, not as fervently as she is, but a little bit, especially about the outdoor bathrooms.
That's because you're not a woman. I'll just throw that in there.
Hey.
I'm sorry.
But again, being a neighbor, I'm going to get to see this for another 50 years, hopefully, or 40. So I'm really, the design is amazing. I love it. I love the panther in the back. I think the design is really worthwhile and well done as a team. So, and thanks to the Burlingame group, the high school group, and as well as getting their input, because I think that was important, and I can see that in the work that you did. So thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I like the design a lot. I think it's very appealing. It's going to be challenging for those 18 months during the construction, but it's going to pay off at the end. But that is going to be a challenging period. Do we need to actually vote on this?
Yes, President Hanley, we need to approve the schematic design budget and schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Trustee Land, a second from Trustee Griffin. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
Trustee Land,
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer,
I would really appreciate at least one more bathroom upstairs. Otherwise, yes.
and I vote yes also. So it's approved 5-0 with strong recommendation for more bathrooms.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to schematic design budget schedule for San Mateo High School tennis court replacement, baseball and softball field improvement project.
All right. We have Bill Fee from Carducci, our landscape design. We've got Todd Lee from Greystone, and I'll move through that. And I have some comments from Yvonne Shu and Jeff Scheller, who aren't here tonight, but I can give you some feedback from them. So I'll turn it over to, I believe, Bill.
Okay, Todd, is it okay if I start?
Yes, sir.
All right, okay, so this is slide 1, has the title of the project. Can we go to the next slide? All right, this is an overview of the project shown in color. I'm sure you all know the campus pretty well. This is up in the upper right-hand corner or the northeast corner of the campus, the old baseball field in the corner, parallel to North Humboldt Street along the east side of the campus. The project had the purpose of the project and why we're talking about it is that in the lower left-hand corner here, the white box labeled 17 is the new gymnasium that you know about already. And that new gymnasium number 17 will be placed on the existing tennis courts. So that requires the district to displace those tennis courts onto some of the underutilized land that is just north of the bus yard on the campus. And there's an existing baseball field, an existing softball field. The new 7 tennis courts will displace an existing batting cage and an existing bullpen that's being used by the baseball program. So as part of that, the tennis courts moving over, we'll do some improvements on the baseball field and we'll do some improvements on the softball field. And as part of the 3 facilities being improved, the overall ADA access of the project of the campus will be improved. Most of this corner of the campus has not had a lot of improvements through the modernization that's occurred over the last 20 years. So this is a really good opportunity to bring this corner of the campus and almost the last piece of the San Mateo High School campus into the up to modern standards. So we will be taking this to DSA to get an access only approval. We have enlargements of each venue, which we can go through. And I know Dr. Skelly's a big tennis fan from working with him at Cappuccino High School, Mills High School. So appreciate any input he has, as long as he can input. And so we can go to the next slide, please. So right along the northern edge of the bus yard, you can see the buses there in white. That's our edge on our southern edge. And 7 courts do fit there pretty nicely. The courts are numbered 1 through 7, going left to right. And they meet the requirements of 120 feet by 60 feet for 3 of them, the 3 on the left. And so courts 1 and 2 will be two lighted 60-foot by 120-foot courts. And then court number 3 will also be a 60 by 120, which is a full court. And then the remaining 4 courts will be a battery of 4, where they kind of they share the space between the courts. Whereas for courts 1 and 2, we can have those as full courts and have divider fences between them with the lights. Those 2 were closest to the gym, the new gym. We created a little plaza, kind of like a hub, as an entry area for where people can gather before they go off to either venue, the baseball field, the tennis facility, or the softball field. And then you can also see the path of travel here is shown as a gray pathway on the north edge of the courts. It's a somewhat flat site, as you may know, but there's a little bit of grade change going from left to right, which we can work with. And we will have a path of travel down to Humboldt Street and a connection to the lighted crosswalk that's at North Humboldt, which I think is a good thing to have for the students entering the backside of the school, students walking to school. You go to the next slide, please. Then there's the baseball field. As we mentioned, because of the tennis courts displacing the dugout and the batting cage, those 2 facilities need to be moved closer to the baseball field. We put them on the north edge. Number 7 is the proposed batting cage. Number 4 is an improvement of the existing bullpen. And then we've added a new bullpen parallel to North Humboldt Street along the third baseline. And the other part of the improvements here will be enclosing the field. So we'll keep the field natural grass. This is not a synthetic turf project. And there already is an outfield fence approximately where we show it. We'll evaluate that location. It has an existing warning track, which can be cleaned up, so to speak. And then we'll enclose the lower right-hand corner between the foul line and the fence along North Humboldt, and we'll enclose the edge along first base with the new batting cage and the new bullpen and some fencing in the corner of the outfield. And that'll keep people, hopefully keep people from walking their dogs on the field or using the field without permits. So that it gives
good luck.
Yeah, it gives good luck. It gives the school district a little more control over maintaining the field and controlling the quality of the field. And then the next facility, if we can go to the next slide, is the softball field. Softball field has a perimeter outfield fence. It is lacking the sideline fencing that encloses the facility. So like the baseball field, we're going to enclose the corners. And then we're also going to add what's noted as number 4 here, kind of center field, add a new scoreboard. We've labeled it as 200 feet. The topographic maps in process. We'll check if it's actually 200 feet or it might be a little longer. So the existing dugouts and other facilities will remain the same. And you can see what we noted here is number 5, that little central plaza. It kind of is a hub for the 3 facilities. I think that's about it. I could go over more if you want to ask questions or anything else.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Could we do next slide, please?
Okay.
So we'll talk a little bit about the schedule. This too is a split schedule. As Bill mentioned, we do not have to go for a full DSA review. It's just access only, so it should be fairly quick. We're going to try and accelerate the drawings through the summer and get into DSA by the end of September. we'd like to get out to bid and awarded by the February 9th board meeting. And then immediately go into the construction of the tennis courts. And the objective there is to complete the tennis court work prior to taking out the tennis courts, existing tennis courts, in order to start the new gyms project. So from February 10th to June 1st, we're projecting to get the tennis courts in place. So you won't be without tennis courts at any point in the construction. Baseball season runs in the spring. So we don't plan to start the baseball work until hopefully after playoffs in early June. And we're looking at that as a summer project, June, July, and August to complete that work. It's a relatively small scope. And so by the time you come back to school for the 23-24 school year, the project should be complete. Next slide, please. So construction budget, I broke them into tennis and softball, baseball, just so you could see the relative cost between the two. We're just about 1.8 on the tennis courts anticipated bid amount and about 640,000 on the baseball, softball improvements. And if there's any questions on the breakdown there, you'll also see that we've got some escalation money figured into those costs. Next slide, please. And with that, I'm sure Mr. Fee or I are willing to take questions. Or Yancey, I believe you had some comments from Ms. Shu and Mr. Scheller.
Yeah, I just, they send their thanks to the design team. They're really excited to move forward with this project. You know, they were here for the gym project, and this was all done together with the overall planning. So they wanted to say thank you on that. And then, you know, they had the real interest in closing the softball and the baseball field. That was a heavy site interest given the use of those fields. So with that, we can open it up to questions. I see a couple hands.
Yeah, Trustee Dwyer.
Okay. I'm not going to go on about restrooms this time. The San Mateo restroom outside is located in an area which has pretty good access for everyone, all users. So I think that's okay. Two things. Why are we not looking at turf for the softball and the baseball fields, given the drought and, you know, the ongoing water issues with the price of water going up?
I can answer that question. Primarily, it's a cost question. You'll see in the next presentation that Mr. Fee will go over around the cost. We're looking at, I think it's $6+ million on the turfing of the field over at Aragon. And so that wasn't an approved project from the board. So that might be something that we want to look at moving, especially with the drought and looking at that. But it wasn't in the list of projects now. And if you add softball, you're probably in the $10 million range, roughly. So that's why we hadn't brought.
I guess I'm just thinking historically, because we didn't put turf at Mills, we didn't put turf at Cap for their football fields, and not a whole lot of years later, we turfed them. And I think, you know, and I think we really need to take a hard look at using turf so that we don't have to do it twice. And I think look at what the costs would be to do it later rather than do it now. The other question I have is, are the dugouts and the facilities that you said are not going to be, the dugout, we're not replacing the dugout, we're not replacing this or that. Are they in such fine condition that we won't be replacing them in 2-3 years or 5 years? Are they really that good of shape?
I think no. I think it's a budget issue. But I think we can evaluate it during the design development. And I think we need, maybe we can go out there and walk the field together and evaluate where it makes sense to replace fences. The dugouts are only fences. Well, we will be doing a lot of fence work to but you pay by the linear foot. So just have to see how far we can go with it.
Okay, I don't see anything getting less expensive 5 years from now.
Yeah.
And I don't see it getting any less expensive in 10 years from now.
Mhm.
So I would hope that we can take a really long-term look and, kind of look at what it would cost us today on turf, on the dugouts or whatever, isn't really as good as it could be versus waiting, unless there's no money for it at all. But, it's hard to put turf on one couple schools and then not do it here too, particularly with the gym work being done. I mean, all that's going to be so new and nice, and yeah. And with the drought, with our water situation, I just don't see that improving. So those are my concerns. Thank you. And I absolutely think this is a great idea. So thank you. And I like that you have plants behind you, Mr. Fee.
Oh, thanks.
It goes with your whole
Right.
work. So thank you.
Trustee Griffin?
Yeah, I hate to beat the dead horse, but my question was going to be on the turf and the trends of real grass versus turf and the trade-offs of cost and injury. So are people that have adequate money putting in turf, or are they putting in grass? Okay. Is turf?
Yeah, they're putting in turf by 3-to-1 margin. It comes down to a cost issue. To answer Ms. Dwyer's question, no, the field is not in good shape. I think it's probably second to Aragon at the low end of your athletic facilities. It's just a matter of budget. If you had the money to do it, now is probably not the time, as we'll discuss, Aragon. Hopefully petroleum prices drop back going into the spring before we get to bidding. But right now with gas at record high, all the equipment runs on diesel. The trucks hauling the rock in run on diesel, and the carpet that makes up the artificial turf is made of petroleum-based products. So we're feeling the escalation on the turf fields. I would have to run numbers to verify what it would cost, how much cost advantage there would be to doing it all at once versus going back and retrofitting the grass field to a turf field. There's certainly some cost advantage. I don't think it's linear to look at that, but it really comes down to simply having the money to do it.
So a question on safety: are turf fields, natural turf and artificial turf, equally safe for baseball players?
Oh, I think equally safe. There's a lot of debate. So some people that prefer synthetic turf is designed to emulate natural grass. So a well-maintained, beautifully maintained natural grass like a golf course is like our ultimate, what we want to design for an athletic field. You know how hard it is to maintain that if you have gophers and eucalyptus trees and a 50-year-old irrigation system, and a maintenance man that can maintain it. They can mow the grass once a week, 36 weeks a year, and that's your budget, all you can afford. When you buy the synthetic turf, you can think, well, at least we don't have to water it, we don't have to mow it. Initially, it's beautiful. You just look at Cappuccino High School, how nice those fields are. They're smooth as glass, they're smooth as a table. People look on it, they love it. Those kids can run around there all day, fall down, and they're safe. But people can still hurt themselves. They can still hurt their knee or trip and fall or have contacts. So there's still sports where people can hurt themselves. But statistically, people will say synthetic fields are safer. It's hard to tell people that's why we should do them, because some people may argue with you about it, but you're going to get a lot more use out of them. You don't have to shut them down for the winter when you're trying to play baseball. So you can play in the rain. I mean, there's so many, and of course the drought. I mean, there's so many reasons to do it. That's why you're doing it at Aragon, and why it's going to be great for Mills and Cap.
So do we have any wells on the school district sites that do we know
Not that I'm aware of.
that we could use non-potable water I mean, because, this whole thing, I'd rip out my landscaping, except I can't afford drought resistant. I'm buying it on the installment plan at Home Depot, and one plant a weekend, and it's going to be about 100 years. But I'm just concerned that the message that we send to everybody is the right message. We're kind of between the rock and the hard spot on this too, because putting in the cheaper alternative from a capital perspective is going to use really valuable resources and things that we may be, I don't think we're exempt from, or we shouldn't be exempt from water conservation down the road. And then we're also looking at, well, geez, if we do find money to rip out the grass, then we're going to spend a lot more money to get the turf, the turf put in. So it's a great concept. I wish we had a little more money to do it the right way to start with, but anyway, thank you.
We also do not want San Mateo to be treated differently than Cappuccino or Mills or Aragon. So I mean,
Or
that's
Burlingame.
another, or Burlingame, right?
Softball field.
So yeah, that's
Sorry,
another.
that was what my comment was going to be. So I'm glad you said that, Linda.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I just want to kind of note on that. Dr. Skelly has talked about kind of our plan in this district has kind of always been progressive parity. One school jumps ahead and then we, move ahead. Cappuccino and Mills, they had grass, stadium fields for years and years. And even after the other folks got fields, and now they're, it came up to high on their list of priorities. And that's why we moved forward with this. I think what we're seeing right now is exactly what we kind of expected. Is I think everyone's seeing what's happening over at Mills and Cappuccino and saying, wow, that's great. And that's terrific. And I think that maybe when we look forward and we move forward over the next few years, that when those list of priorities kind of come out, maybe we'll, that'll move up the list in terms of, priorities for this, this or the next bond or how we look at it. I will say from a priority standpoint, one of the first things I did was I met with every single principal, when I started, and that was after the board had approved the list of approved projects. And I wanted to check with each and every one of them that they were comfortable with the prioritization of projects for Measure L. They went through, and Todd was there at those meetings, and that's what they said. Yes, this is the priority of our projects right now. Now, I think as we move forward, I think absolutely once people see Mills and Cap, I think, Burlingame, I'm sure I'm going to get a text from Paul Belzer here in just a minute, or maybe Jen Fong, but I think that'll start moving forward. And, as we move forward, that can be looked at. So.
Yancy, before your time, a similar exercise was done, and the principal at Cap and the principal at Mills, they all insisted they wanted grass. They didn't want turf. They were all about grass. They needed grass. It was discussed with us.
Yep.
They insisted that that's what they wanted, and that did not work out well for them. They had a lot of problems with, particularly the Mills field. They couldn't put soccer on. There was all this battling over who soccer couldn't use it because football needed it, and then they couldn't use it in the winter. It really became much more of an issue. But in the beginning, that was what they wanted, and that was not the best decision for them. So we had to redo all of it. Anyway, history. We should learn from it.
Greg?
I think just to finish up what I was saying about I was kind of tagging along with what Linda was saying, but Yancy, as you said, parity, and it's not going to happen exactly the same time, but I think it's worthwhile to investigate the idea of turfing fields like softball fields altogether or whatever. I mean, I think you bring up a good point, but I want it to be investigated that, okay, since we're doing certain projects, if we add X, Y, and Z, does that make it efficient or not efficient? And especially saving water and looking into things like that, I think it's important. So, and just to tie into what Linda said as well, sometimes we think we know what we want and maybe we don't. And, it's sort of like, from a site-based perspective, maybe we need to look at a kind of the bigger picture of everybody and where we are all moving towards. So.
Yep. No, we will definitely look into that. Todd, myself, and the team. We'll look into potentially any cost savings or efficiencies that we can do. And if it's possible, I would love to move forward with all of our sites having turf. So, and I think that's eventually where we'll go. So just to be clear, I'm not pushing back on that. Most purist baseball fans I know, they want a grass field, and I totally get that. But when they get that turf field, they're really happy when they can play the day after the rain every time. It doesn't matter. It's always in great shape, as Bill noted. So, all right.
Okay, I just want to remind us, we did do an analysis of a budget for Measure L funds, and we're throwing around millions of dollars here, pretty loosely here. So let's bring us I want to keep us in reality here before we get ourselves crazy about what we can do. I mean, we've added substantially with the Burlingame gym. So, and we've added solar, and we've added some other projects that weren't on the list originally. So Measure L was a big bond measure, but it wasn't infinity. So before we go crazy here, let's look at the budget. Let's look at the budget comprehensively. That's all I'm saying here, because we're tossing around millions of dollars.
Don't we need a motion to approve this?
Yes,
I think we should look at the facilities in the whole too. So, okay.
I'd like to make the motion to approve this.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Trustee Land, second from Trustee Dwyer. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Zuniga?
Yes.
Trustee Land?
Yes, on we go.
Trustee Dwyer?
Yes, I really want turf though.
Yes.
With my restrooms.
And I vote yes also. So that is approved 5-0. But not
Thank
with
you,
turf yet.
gentlemen.
Not with turf yet.
All right, thank you.
Stop, Peter. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Just a time check. It's 9:34.
Yes. I'm getting
I've only
tired.
been at this since 5 o'clock. I mean,
You need a stretch break?
M3.
I need a restroom.
Schematic design budget schedule for
We don't have
Aragon
one.
High School lighted baseball flex field project.
Okay.
Quickly, please.
Yep. Again, I'll turn it over to Bill Fee with Carducci, and we'll get Linda finally her turf that she wants.
Yeah, we'll just move it, some of it to San Mateo.
Yes.
You know?
Cheaper by the dozen, right? Okay. All right, so here's the title slide, Aragon High School Baseball and Flex Field Schematic Design Presentation. Next slide, please. This is a zoom in on the existing baseball field. We're putting the new baseball field pretty much where the existing one is. You can see how it's just below the track. And so it's got its own terrace between the running track and the tennis courts. So the tennis courts are I'm sure you know the Aragon High School site. It has a lot of slope to it. Water's moving down the hill from where it says schematic design towards Alameda de los Pugas at the top of the page. So we have the tennis courts at, say, kind of the top of the campus. And then there's an embankment that creates a very nice bowl shape that the backstop is tucked into. And that's kind of how it is now. And we really recognize that that's it makes a very nice venue. And I know Steve Sell recognized that as well. And part of the sense of place of a baseball field, it has a very nice intimacy to it. Fire Road, of course, is on the right-hand side, and Aurora Homes, your neighbors, on the right-hand side. And then between the outfield fence and the running track, there's a row of evergreen trees. And we also have 4 light poles out there that light the running track and football field. And that row of evergreen trees is a very nice, also enhances the sense of place and creates a very nice sense of enclosure, because there's also a nice row of trees between the tennis courts and the baseball field, and parallel to the fire road that runs up the hill. So and then of course the campus is to the left, and you can see the solar collectors on the roof onto the left. The boys' gym is in that building nearby. So what we did with this site, and another peculiar thing about the site that Steve Sell acknowledged, but you kind of think baseball fields are flat, but actually from the left field foul line on the first base side, on the third base side, sloping to the right, the other corner, there's a 12-foot grade change. And if you look carefully when you're out there, you can see it. But of course, that type of grade change affects play quite a bit. So when we design a synthetic turf field, we want to design it in an ideal way. And the infield base paths from home, the first, the second, the third, back to home, is a dead level line, like a house. It's a rectangle that's purely flat, like a table. The pitcher's mound is 10 inches higher than that. And then everything slopes away from the pitcher's mound to the outfield fences, sort of like a fan. So based on that, imagine imposing that shape on top of a site where on the left it's 5 feet higher, and on the right it's 5 feet lower. So it's a big grading challenge. It's an earthwork challenge. We're surrounded by trees. We don't want to damage the trees. We want to work with the trees. So we pretty much kept the home plate about where it is. We raised home plate about 3 or 4 feet. And then we carry that out as a level line straight out to the center field fence where that little jog is. We placed the outfield fence parallel to the running track. And we also, because we want to have a strong geometric composition as well in terms of the sense of place and the relationship of the outfield fence to the running track to the row trees. And this kind of Google view, and that's orthogonal with the campus building. So you have that sort of an immediate, strong placemaking facility. So you sort of, when you'll know where the baseball field is, of course, it kind of fits into the campus kind of thing. But so what we've done is kept the outfield fence pretty much where it is. We pulled it in a little bit to get it away from the trees, because we will have to have a retaining wall parallel to the running track. And then as we kind of jog the corners, you can see the rectangle there is labeled as number 7. That is the pair of batting cages. That's where they exist now, so we put them back in the same place. The bullpens are labeled number 5 here. There's one on each side. The dugouts are labeled as number 6. There's one on each side. There are a pair of bleachers, actually 2 pairs of bleachers, which are labeled as 15, one on each side of home plate. That will accommodate about 200 people. Currently, people sit at the top of the hill and kind of bring their own chairs, and that activity can still happen. And then because we raised the field about 3 or 4 feet, it'll work with the bowl. So, and we created a path to travel from where it says 20 on the left-hand side over by the third base foul line. That's the connection from the campus, and we'll have a slope walkway to the bullpen, and then the dugout, and then into the field. And the term flex field is added on to baseball. So if there's a large green rectangle in right field, so that's about the size, almost the size of a football field. It's the width of a football field. So the football team can use that for practice. It's parallel to the football field. So there's a visual relationship. It'll have striping that'll be very subtle. So you won't take away from the primary purpose as a baseball field. And then the orange box in the left field side on the third base side, that's the width of a soccer field. So that's about a half a soccer field. And so if lacrosse needs it, lacrosse could use it too, but that was the thought. And then the school asked that we also address that we have an infield that's primarily designed for baseball. And then we'll have an outfield grass that has the resiliency for football and soccer. And you could see the warning tracks are shown in beige. That will also have that'll have a texture and a color that will show players that they're close to the fence and give them the warning. I think that about does it. Todd?
Okay, next slide, please. So I'll be very brief with the schedule. We're designing into the fall through DSA through the winter, close the baseball field, hopefully at the end of May, if they make it a long ways into the playoffs, maybe early June. Construction is 6 months and open the field just in time for the start of the 24 season in early January of 2024. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, probably the most escalation prone projects that we're seeing right now. By example, we're doing a baseball field at Saratoga that bid about 6 months ago at 4.6 project cost, and we're at 6.6 project cost for this one. So they're moving up rather rapidly. I have escalation money built into these numbers, but it is considerably over what we had budgeted it for the field back in 2018 when we initially put it together. I will say, as Bill mentioned, it's not readily apparent that there's a 12-foot grade change on that field until you shoot a topo. We're having to bring in almost 3,000 yards of dirt to level that field and make it right. So that is part of the budget bust is in that added 3,000 yards of dirt. And with that, we're happy to take questions. And I think, Yancy, you have comments from Ms. Arbizu and Mr. Sell.
Yeah, they're super excited about this project. This is something that they've been waiting for and they're excited about, and it's a top priority on their site. So they're just really excited and ready to move forward. And they wanted to thank especially Bill for all the work he's done on that project. So.
Thank you, Yancy.
Trustee Zuniga, you had some questions?
Yes, I have a quick question. I did see the ADA pathway and everything, but what are the ADA seating going to look like?
Can we go back to the slide? All right.
It's just hard to see. It's really tiny.
Sure. Yeah, it's a little too small. So on each side of the bleachers, we include ADA seating and adjacent companion seating. And then right behind home plate, we placed a bench. I didn't mention the bench. We placed that's San Mateo High School. We placed a bench and wheelchair seating space adjacent to that. So we met the code requires 5 wheelchair spaces. We provided 6. There's certainly other flat land space there that we haven't shown seating. So people can still bring in folding chairs and wheelchairs. So there's plenty of, like, between the 2 bleachers that are shown as 15, there's plenty of flat space there that we didn't fill up with so there could be more wheelchairs and companion seats. And there's also a wall where behind the bench that's about seat height, where people could actually sit on the seat wall and accompany people with wheelchairs.
Thank you. Yeah, they get super packed when there's so many people and it's tough to find a spot sometimes. So thank you.
Okay, Linda?
I just have a quick comment. It's amazing what you can do when you put in turf. You've made room for soccer, you've made room for lacrosse, you've made room for football practice. So, Yancey, we can do a lot with turf, right? And gives maybe more flexibility to people. So that's something that should be considered in the analysis because it adds practice space. It would add practice space for San Mateo too. So that's it.
And
Thank you.
Burlingame. And Burlingame.
Okay, is there a motion to approve this?
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from trustee Griffin and a second from trustee Land. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Land,
Yes.
trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Good night, gentlemen.
Thank you for your work on this.
Okay, you're welcome. We appreciate working on it. We appreciate the work. Thank you. Bye-bye. Good
Good.
night.
So, move to Division of Human Resources.
Right. I'm wondering if it's possible or allowed to pass these measures or with a single vote, if that has any value to the board.
That works for me. Because we've looked at most, I remember most of it.
There may be one, there may be the one where I have to read out all the salaries. That I don't think we can, but the other ones.
Yeah, you have to read those. The board script, that's N7. So we could do N1 through 6.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with it because we've read them all.
Right. So I make a motion to pass N1 to N6.
Second.
N1 through 6. Okay, works for me. Is there a second to that?
Yeah, Linda.
I seconded
okay.
it already.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve items N1 through N6. Trustee Griffin,
Yes.
trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Land,
Yes.
trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. So N7.
Go
Approval
for
of
it, Peter.
Represented administrator classified management contracts for 22-23 school year.
I think when we discussed this during agenda setting, I think I said I'd read these out. Is that accurate?
Does it matter? It doesn't matter, does it?
No.
As long as they're read.
As long as they're read.
All right, so here goes. Administrator manager position salaries and benefits for the 22-23 school year. The following are the compensation terms for the district's non-represented administrator and classified manager positions. Each administrator manager will receive health and welfare benefits up to $25,343, transportation and cell phone reimbursements of $275 a month, various subscriptions and memberships and reimbursement for approved district expenses. Assistant principals. All the assistant principals will work 214 days except for Brett Stevenson, who has a 204-day contract. Dominic Begue, assistant principal, Burlingame High, salary $188,607. Monique de Brito Guetes, assistant principal, Cappuccino High School, salary $198,460. Eric Ding, assistant principal, Mills High School, salary $167,214. Nicole Lenz Martin, assistant principal, Aragon High School, salary $198,764. Andrew Hartig, Assistant Principal, Aragon High School, salary $167,214. Michael Holtz, Assistant Principal, San Mateo High School, salary $198,460. Gary Hong, Assistant Principal, San Mateo High School, salary $167,214. Joshua Knudsen, Assistant Principal, Burlingame High School, salary $193,620. Nancy Quay, Assistant Principal, Cappuccino High School, salary $198,460. Amy Malcolm, Assistant Principal, Burlingame High School, salary $167,214. Ashley Milton, Assistant Principal, Hillsdale High School, salary $198,764. David Moore, Assistant Principal, Aragon High School, salary $167,214. Margarita Navarro, Assistant Principal, San Mateo High School, salary $198,764. Sarah Prinsky Pomerantz, Assistant Principal, Hillsdale High School, salary $183,086. Jonathan White, Assistant Principal, Mills High School, salary $167,214. Alfred Wolfgram, Assistant Principal, Peninsula High School, salary $180,657. Assistant Superintendent Julia Kemke, Assistant Superintendent Curriculum Instruction, salary $233,640, 221 work days. Associate Superintendent Yancey Hawkins, Associate Superintendent of Chief Business Officer, salary $259,108. Kirk Black, Deputy Superintendent, Human Resources and Student Services, salary $281,635. Directors, all the directors work 221 days. Simon Bettis, Director of Technology, salary $205,801. Linda Carlton, Director of Maintenance, Operations, and Facility Use, salary $209,070. Valerie Miller, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services, salary $209,070. Don Scatena, Director of Student Services and Middle College Principal, salary $229,145. Brian Simmons, Director of Curriculum and Assessment, salary $225,569. Angela Taylor, Director of Adults and Career Education, salary $198,354. Holly Wade, Director of Special Education, salary $229,145. Assistant Directors, they work 221 days. Lauren Berlin, Assistant Director of Special Education, salary $191,731. Harkaret Kira Mann, Assistant Director of Adult School and Career Education, salary $163,568. Executive Director of the Excel Program, Kieran Holder Jackson, salary $158,549. Our general managers, they all work 221 days. James Hyde Jr., General Manager of Operations, salary $169,826. Charles Royce, General Manager of Facilities, salary $161,643. Our manager Vanessa Castano, Manager Accounting, salary $201,644. She works 221 days. Laura Chalkley, Manager Public Relations, Communications, and Publications, salary $184,041. She works 214 days. Sabby Hopkins, Manager of Teacher Induction and Professional Learning, salary $182,090, 214 days. Sammy Showman, Manager of English Learners and Academic Support Program, salary $197,071, 214 days. April Torres, Manager of Mental Health Programs, salary $192,265, 214 days. Associate Managers, Joanne Michaels, Associate Manager of Mental Health Programs, salary $175,173. Our principals, all of whom work 221 days. Valerie Orbizu, Principal, Aragon High School, salary $226,571. Ron Campana, Principal, Peninsula High School, salary $229,145. Pam Dzinski, principal of Mills High School, salary $229,145. Jennifer Fong, principal Burlingame High School, salary $229,145. Jeffrey Gilbert, principal Hillsdale High School, salary $229,145. Jose Gomez, principal Cappuccino High School, salary $215,529. And finally, Yvonne Shu, principal San Mateo High School, salary $229,145.
Thank you. You earned your pay for today.
Thank you. Is there a
Okay.
motion?
So move.
Second.
Second,
Okay, I think.
Greg got it.
I think Greg was the motion to approve by trustee Griffin, second by trustee Land. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Land,
Yes.
trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. So the contracts are approved 5-0. Personnel actions.
Personnel actions and addendum for approval.
Okay. Is there a motion on personnel actions?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Griffin, second by trustee Dwyer. Trustee Griffin,
No.
Andrade
Zuniga.
Zuniga.
oh, second by trustee Andre Zuniga. Trustee Griffin,
Yes.
trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Land,
Yes.
trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes. And I understand N9 has been pulled, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. N10, approve the 22-23 salary schedule for California School Employees Association, 519 and classified longevity.
Yes, we pulled this from the last meeting because we had to, still had yet to get into an agreement with the CSEA. As you mentioned earlier, or as the president mentioned earlier of CSEA, we've agreed today and we'd like to recommend approval of the salary schedule.
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from trustee Dwyer, a second from trustee Zuniga. Trustee Griffin,
Yes.
trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Land,
Yes.
trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. So that is approved 5-0. Where are we? I think we moved down to Q1, the third amendment to purchase and sale agreement and joint escrow instructions for a sale of Crestmore School site to Summerhill Homes LLC.
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, that was trustee Zuniga, right?
No, it was me.
Land.
Please.
Sorry, who
Linda,
moved?
Linda made the motion. I seconded it.
Okay.
You're tired, Peter.
I am. I'm exhausted.
We all are.
I'm
We're all young.
absolutely exhausted. Okay. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Land,
Let me take a moment to think about it. Just yes, sorry.
trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. Appointment of board secretary.
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Dwyer, second by trustee Land. Trustee Griffin,
Yes.
trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Land,
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. Approval to increase the Board of Trustees stipend effective July 1. There were motion.
I thought that's what we just voted on.
No, no,
No, we voted
Board secretary.
You
Board
said that
Secretary.
though.
no. He said board secretary.
I said Board Secretary.
Oh, I thought he said trustee stipend. Okay, that's fine.
I did now. I just did now,
Okay.
not before.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move adoption.
Fine, second.
Okay, a motion by Trustee Griffin, second by Trustee Land. Trustee Griffin,
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
Trustee Land,
Sure, yeah.
Trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. So it's 5-0 to approve that. Any requested board items for August 11th? Or beyond?
There is one item that I know Mr. Booker and Ms. Kemke will bring, and that is that what I found the most valuable PD that I did was the attendance at the consortium. It turns out that the meeting is scheduled for September 29th. So you can anticipate that he may bring back something for the board to consider moving a board meeting to somewhere around then. You have 2 meetings in August, September, and October, and perhaps there's an ability to consolidate one of those meetings or move things around to do that. So staff will be working on that between now and August 11th.
Yes. I think you will remember that I suggested that back when we were considering the calendar.
Well,
Which is one of the reasons I voted against the calendar.
You'll get another chance to be proven right, Mr. Haley.
There you go, Peter. Amen.
Okay.
whatever.
Good luck, Dr. Skelly.
Thank you.
Enjoy your travels.
Yes.
Get rest.
Yes.
Wow.
On we go.
All right.
On we go.
Move that rock pile.
Good night.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.
everyone.
I think we are adjourned.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night, John Boy.